Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
All right. We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. Back with yet another call-in show. I like to do these from time to time to give the community an opportunity to call in, as well as our opposition, as well as these foreigners who have a twisted, vested interest in trying to convince us we come from Africa. Guys, I say it time and time again, these folks don't even know the name of our grandparents, but they got the nerve to try to tell us where our great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents came from. I mean, okay. All right. If I could ever slap a Rico on someone, it would be these different demographics of foreigners and migrants that are colluding together to try to convince you and me that we come from a place that our ancestors have never even been to. I mean, unless your mama fell for the Pan-African okie doke in the 80s and the 90s and, took a trip to Egypt or something to see the pyramids. I mean, come on, let's talk about it. The phone line's posted, 405-351-4721. Folks on TikTok, you actually have two different ways to call in. You can request to join as a guest through TikTok, or you can call the call-in number. Folks on YouTube, you have one way to call in, and that's by calling the call-in number that is posted on the screen. I really want to hear from the naysayers, the detractors, the people who think that Black people are pretendians or wabos or like ashamed to be African or something. I mean, it's strange talking points coming from foreigners, whether Mexicans claiming that their grandmas were Aztec princesses, or these African migrants coming over here talking about Africa's the motherland as they actively flee the motherland, or, I mean, the descendants of these Europeans who are still squatting on our land to this day while trying to convince us that, we come from the other side of the globe. I mean, okay. Do I have to talk about the Plains natives, the Bering Strait migrants living down bad on the reservation? Yeah. Trying to convince everybody that they're the true first indigenous people to this land? I mean, hey, if you were the first one here, why did you choose to settle in the desert? That's all I'm asking. You don't want to be in Caribbean, East Coast, Southeast, Mississippi Delta, none. You want to be in Mexico, South America? Oh, you just like living in the desert, roaming with the buffalo. Living in tents, teepees. Guys, what are we talking about? Let's get caught up with the chat and then we'll open up the phone lines. Jay Barnes over on YouTube. Shout out to Jay Barnes. Jay Barnes says, we in here. What up, big dog? Catching you from TikTok to YouTube. Stay up, bro. Well, hey, thank you for following me from one platform to the next. I really appreciate the support. Mystical over on TikTok says, America was a Black country before Columbus. Absolutely. Columbus's own journals speak to that fact. They called the indigenous inhabitants Negros de Terras. That literally translates to blacks of the land. Let's talk about it. Chakora Good says, Don, get up here, you scared. Oh no, I think Don already ran away. Oftentimes these guys are keyboard warriors. They want to show me your DNA. You really come from Africa. But when I drop the number and say pull up, they don't want to pull up. Come on, let's talk about it. QC says it has to be a vested interest because why everybody cares so much about who we are. Absolutely. White Town says, Ohio in here, bro. What up, Mike? It's Jason from YouTube, catching you for the first time on TikTok. Well, thank you for also following me from one platform to the next. I appreciate the support. Guys, the call-in number is posted. Everybody's welcome to call in, whether friend or foe. I'm a genealogist, digital archivist, card-carrying member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, descendant of the Chief Justice of the Muskogee Creek Nation, and I like to make myself available. whether it's to members of our community who have general questions about genealogy, tribal citizenship, tribal benefits, or these trolls that want to call in and do their best to try to convince us we come from Africa. I mean, I just ask that you cite some sources. You got to have some sources you can cite, right? But guys, while we wait for some folks to call in, let me give you guys the luxury of choice. I have a couple clips from previous calls that I had with people. Put a 0 in the chat if you would like to see the footage of, I can't even say this with a straight face. Put a 0 in the chat if you would like to see the footage of an interaction I had with a Caribbean man who claims that Black Americans look like Fulani Africans. Yeah, put a 0 in the chat if you want to see that. Put a 1 in the chat if you'd rather see the clip of a adopted girl from South America who's trying to convince us we're African because of DNA tests. Yeah, that's another one for you. We got the Caribbean man who says we look like Fulanis. Put a 0 in the chat if you want that. And then we got the girl who's adopted from Central or South America trying to convince us we're African because of DNA tests. Put a 1 in the chat if you'd like to see that. I'll always give you the luxury of choice over here. TikTok is voicing their opinion. TikTok is showing nothing but zeros thus far. Jack D. Monk says DNA is not a valid source. Hey, let's talk about it. YouTube is also showing zeros. Detroit Brown says both. Well, hey, you know what? It looks like we'll start with the recent interaction that I had with the Caribbean man, okay? We'll start with the Caribbean man, and then we'll go from there. Give me just a moment, y'all. Let me get this screen share prepped. I'm telling you, these foreigners be trying to call in and convince us we come from Africa. Whole time, we don't know them. Stranger danger. We don't care about you, your culture, your heritage, who your ancestors were. But damn, we got to be the chosen people or something, because everyone in the world wants to talk like us and dance like us and dress like us and play like us. And hey, Black American culture is the #1 culture that is globally exported. Them Koreans over there doing K-pop, which is basically just a ripoff of our 90s and early 2000s R&B girl groups. I mean, let's talk about it. Speaking of the Koreans, if you don't know the history, a lot of Black Americans from the Southeast were in Korea during the Korean War, and we actually taught them how to fry chicken, and they ain't never looked back. Them Koreans be frying the hell out of some chicken, okay? I mean, once again, our culture is exported globally. Globally. Don't get me started on them Latinos trying to dress like us and rap like us. And if I thought you won't believe what they saw, Holmes, I mean, no. Why don't you want to stick to your Spanish European cultures? Stick to your mariachi music. You don't need to act like us. We sure don't want to act like you. But guys, the audience has voted. They wanted to see the clip between me and this Caribbean man who had the nerve to try to say we look like some damn Fulani Africans, y'all. This is wild. This is wild. Check this shit out. Unmute yourself and let's hear. Go ahead and unmute yourself and let's hear what you have to say. You said something about Native Americans or something, right?
Sure. Show me an African, sorry, not African, pardon me, a black Native American. Yeah, show me some other people from. I'm curious. That's what I'm asking. Show me someone who is black, a black Native American.
Your child. Well, it's a time out. You're stuttering. Well, it's a time out. You're stuttering. You're all over the place. Are you challenging me to show you a black Native American? Is that the challenge? Yes or no? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yes.
Is that the challenge? Okay, yes, that's the challenge. Well, first of all, no offense, you're ignorant because you're looking at a black Native American. But I think what you really meant is, can you show me like an older photo from like decades ago or something, or like an older photo of a black man that's indigenous, that's a native, right? Okay, I'll do that for you. Pulled up the Fulanis that you said I look like. You failed miserably. Don't look like a Fulani. Now you're challenging me to show you a photo of a black indigenous person? Easy. Here's my grandfather, Thomas Jefferson Adams Harjo, Chief Justice of the Muskogee Creek Nation, tribal king of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Now what? Now what? You can't show me a Fulani that I look like. You thought you were cooking. You said, well, Mike, show us a black indigenous man that you look like. How about my grandfather, dumbass? Did I pass your test? Oh, wait, but then there's more. You're probably thinking to yourself, well, no, that's just a black man. That's not a Native American black man. Well, let's go to the dolls roll. You probably don't know what a dolls roll is, huh? When you go to the dolls roll and type in my ancestor's roll number 2145, his name is Thomas Jefferson Adams Harjo, and clearly he's listed right here as a full-blooded Creek by blood.
Yeah, Mary, bring your goofy ass up here too.
So not only did I show you a picture of a black Indian, I also verified that he's 100% Creek by blood. Now what do you have to say? Oh, it's getting awkward, huh, guys? It's getting real. I think I hear awkward silence on the line. I'm going to give the audience the luxury of choice. Put a 0 in the chat if you guys don't want to hear from him anymore, and we should get on to the next one. Put a 1 in the chat if you want me to just let him unmute himself and just speak uninterrupted for some time, and let's just hear what he has to say. I see a lot of 0s in the chat. Someone says they're curious.
And you know what, y'all, hold on. I ain't gonna do you like that. Y'all need full context. I think y'all need full context. Y'all need to hear that earlier conversation with them where he had the nerve to claim we look like some damn Fulani Africans. I mean, that clip was just like the tail end of the conversation. We got to run it from the top, y'all. We got to run it from the top. This was wild. This was absolutely crazy. Check it out.
Go ahead and unmute yourself and let's hear what you have to say. You said something about Native Americans or something, right?
Sure. Show me an African, not African, pardon me, a black Native American. Yeah, show me.
Bring your
Go ahead. If you have your name, that was a clever observation. What's on your mind? Observation. Where are you calling in from and what's on your mind?
Hi, I'm Lavisha Celestine. I'm actually in New York, and I'm a Caribbean expat. I actually work with someone who has the same ideology as you. I have so many questions because this is just a recent.
Well, hold on. If you have so many questions, I got to warn you. I've got several hours of content I have to get ready for. I've got more people waiting backstage, so we're gonna have to do your questions in a rapid fashion. So just start firing away.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to ask 3 questions. Then. I have a whole lot. I'm going to just summarize it in 3.
Yep.
So you said that you believe that you are Native American, and
false.
You also. Okay, you did not say you were Native American.
I did not say I believe I am Native American. I said I am an American Indian. The government classifies me as an American Indian, and I am a member of a federally recognized tribe. That's what I said.
Right, that's beautiful. And you also know that you have no genetic relative with African people whatsoever.
No African admixture. If I did a DNA test right now, it would not link me to any blood relatives in Africa.
Have you done one?
No.
Okay. So what prevented you from doing one?
Because for one, I have no purpose to.
Okay.
Fun fact, when I was applying for tribal citizenship, my tribe didn't say, hey, take a DNA test to see if you're indigenous to America. No government and no American Indian tribe goes by DNA testing because it is a pseudoscience for proving ethnicity. DNA testing can tell you if you touched a girl. DNA testing can tell you who's your mama and your daddy and your cousins, but a DNA test cannot tell you you're 5% Nigerian, 20% Ghanaian, 30% Ethiopian, 10% European. That's why if you look in the fine print of those tests, it says entertainment purposes only, educated guesses are used.
Okay. So what is your tribe?
The Muskogee Creek Nation.
Okay, do you speak the language that they speak?
Yes.
Okay. Are you fluent?
No.
Can you write it down?
Yes.
Okay. So if you
and I thought you said you had 3 questions. Wait, you went over the limits. So let me just pause you and ask you some questions now.
Okay, I love that.
You said that you're a Caribbean expat, right?
Yes.
Is that synonymous with Caribbean migrant?
Yes, because, it's not. I just think that in the United States, people...
What's the difference between an expat and a migrant?
An expat to me is someone who actually move from one country to another, not necessarily for a better life, but just because they want to move to another country for a different experience. That's what I moved to America for. The politicized calling someone an immigrant pretty much devalues the reason why they come to America. Not everyone who comes to America is running from something. I didn't run from the Caribbean from any political persecution, any danger. I moved to New York because I like New York. I do. So yes.
Okay, hold on. Time. I understand if you have a little bit of insecurities based on the whole migrant or immigrant word, because there's been a lot of bashing migrants in America, but you do understand that expat and immigrant are the same exact thing. An expat, an expat is someone who voluntarily lives outside of their native country. An immigrant is someone who moves permanently to a foreign country. It's the same thing.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. That it's the same thing. But the reason why I'm using expat.
No. You weren't trying to tell me it's the same thing. You were trying to convince us that there's some kind of difference. You were trying to make it seem like an expat is someone who voluntarily moves, but they're not under pressure, while immigrants move because they're running from something. And that's not the case.
No,
if someone's an immigrant, it doesn't by default mean that they're running from something.
And guys, also, just a little bit of clarification. The actual difference between an expat and an immigrant is intent and duration. Expats typically move abroad temporarily for work or lifestyle and then go back home. Immigrants permanently leave their homeland and go somewhere else. Mans is an immigrant. He's not an expat. He's not planning on going back to the Caribbean. Let's keep it a buck.
It just means they're migrating to a foreign country.
That's beautiful. That the reason why I said expat against immigrants is because right now there's a political attack on the word immigrant. When you want to attack someone,
sir, that is your personal opinion.
Okay,
it is not a fact. It is not a fact that there is a political attack on the term immigrants. It is a fact that there is a political attack on illegal immigrants.
That's
but
beautiful.
No, there's not a political attack on immigrants. What are you talking about?
Okay, so when you do look at, to answer your question, when you do look at someone who is African for some reason African, who is an immigrant to America, and they're African.
Hold on. Stop. I really don't want to get too caught up on the immigration thing. It was just one out of several questions I had for you.
Okay.
So you're an immigrant from the Caribbean. Which country in the Caribbean?
I'm from St. Lucia.
St. Lucia. Is that kind of by St. Barnabas? It's like past Puerto Rico?
No, that is it's next to the French Antilles.
Next to the French Antilles. Okay. So far, I've only been to Puerto Rico, so I definitely have to do some more exploring. I've got a map of the West Indies right here, but obviously I haven't studied it a whole lot. So my next question is, do you know what country in Africa your people descend from?
Well, it's an admixture, really. To go back to what you said about the Brazilian slave trade.
Hold on. I told you that we have to be concise. So the answer is no. You don't know what country in Africa your people came from.
Oh, I am of African descent. That is absolutely sure.
Sir. If the answer is no, if the answer is no, just say no, and then I'll get on to the next question. That's it.
Absolutely.
So the answer is no, right? Okay. So you don't know what country in Africa your people came from. Do you know the language that your African ancestors spoke?
Well, since we were all trafficked, there's no distinct language, but the language.
Okay, so the answer
can I elaborate
is no. No. I told you I've got a lot to do. I'm putting you on mute. I told you I've got a lot to do. I got people backstage. We need to be quick. Do you know the country in Africa your people came from? The answer is no. Do you know the African language that your people spoke? The answer is no. So I guess I don't even have to ask you if you speak the African language. That answer is also going to be no. I guess I don't have to ask you if you write your ancient African language, so the question's going to be no. So now here's my next question for you, sir. Why would you ask me what tribe I'm a part of, if I speak the language, if I write the language, if you don't know what tribe your ancestors were a part of, don't know the language, and don't write or speak the language? Cat, got your tongue? All right, well, I guess we'll hear from Tyrone. I think he's thinking about that.
Yeah,
Maybe he's coming up with a good answer for us.
People on in an interrogation seat like he the Indian police or something. But yeah, he's still a Black American. It's just that he has a specific tribe and ethnicity is what you don't understand. But you're sitting up here trying to apply this African descent thing on the people, and you can't even claim a specific West Central African tribe like a Fulani.
Wait, hold on, Tyrone, hold on. He's claiming he's muted. Sir, you're not muted. I'm looking at your microphone. Your microphone has no slash through it. I don't know why you think you're muted. Maybe you're dealing with some technical difficulties. So what I'll do is I'm going to drop you and just request to join, and I'll bring you right back. You're not muted at all. I asked you a question. I was waiting for an answer. My question was, if you don't know the African country your people came from, if you don't know the tribe that your people came from in Africa, if you don't know the language, if you don't speak the language, if you don't write the language, why would you ask these things of me? Go ahead, Lavisha.
Yes, I was muted. You actually muted me and then had to unmute me, but okay. I do speak an African language called Creole. It's a new invention from the slave trade.
So then why, when I asked you the language of your ancestors, you didn't say Creole?
And that's not even the African language.
I think he got caught with his pants down, so now he's trying to backpedal and be like, no, I do speak a language, it's Creole. Did Creole originate in Africa? No. All right. Oh, and you know what it is, Lavisha? For some reason, when I mute you and then I try to unmute you, it now says that your microphone is turned off and only you're able to unmute yourself. So try to unmute yourself, and then maybe it should work.
Is that better?
There you go. Now we can hear you. So again, my question, hopefully we can get an answer this time. Why would you ask those questions of me if you don't know the culture of your ancestors?
Because the question you asked me is a loaded one. There's a massive amount of phenomena that happen during the...
Time out. I asked you the same exact questions you asked me verbatim. If the questions I asked you were loaded questions, then you started off by asking me loaded questions. Are we living in Bizarro land? Is this a Twilight Zone? Guys, did I not literally ask him the same exact questions he asked me?
Yes, you did.
But when I flip it on him and put him to the task of answering to his culture, I'm asking him a loaded question, guys. Look how that works. All right, go ahead, unmute yourself, sir. Go ahead.
So you said that I didn't ask you a loaded question, but the positions we're having conversations on is that I understand what a series of situations got me to be in the Caribbean. You said that you are, Native American.
We don't care what situation got you out of the Caribbean to New York. We didn't ask you what situation brought you from the Caribbean to New York. I asked you, why would you ask me about my tribe, about my language, if I can speak it, if I can write it? If you don't know your tribe, you don't know your language, you can't speak it, you can't write it. And instead of giving us an answer to that question, you try to say that I was asking you a loaded question. We're not going to move away from that, I hope you know. We're not going to let you start explaining away and get caught up in semantics. You've got to answer. Why would you ask me those questions? And when I ask you the same thing, there's an issue? Go ahead and mute yourself. Explain this. This makes no sense to us.
So first of all, I was not pertaining to me moving from the Caribbean to New York. I'm speaking about the phenomenon of my African descendants in the Caribbean answering a Creole question. But if I can answer instead of being muted, I could always answer a question because I have to explain my answer. It's not a yes or no.
I didn't ask you a yes or no question.
Well, you did say yes or no.
No. Earlier, when I asked you yes or no questions, like do you speak the language, do you write the language, those are yes or no questions that get a yes or no answer. But my last question I asked you was not a yes or no question. Okay, my question was, why would you ask me those questions if you don't know your tribe, you don't know your culture, you don't know your language?
Because of curiosity. I was not comparing you to anything. I asked you if you knew you were a Native American, do you speak the language? And are you have any good knowledge of your tribe? That's all I asked you. And then was not pertaining to anything. I was just curious because I did say I was asking a question. You refuse the question to answer me, where it's a little bit.
Sir, this is the issue. You keep going on and on and on when I told you we got to keep it concise. I said, why did you ask me those questions? Your answer is, because I was curious. That's it. That's all. We don't need 3 more sentences, 4, 5, 6 more sentences to explain the rationale behind your curiosity. You asked me those questions because you were curious. And you know what's funny? I asked you those same questions because I was curious. So now my next question to you is, why, when I ask you those same exact questions verbatim, did you reply with, that's a loaded question? Why do you think that that's a loaded question? Go ahead, unmute yourself.
There we go. So it is a loaded question because asking me if I speak my native language, because so that's another question. Can I ask a question? How do you think?
No, you can't ask me another question while you're still answering my question. Jesus Christ. So your answer to my question is, and again, guys, if there's anybody new tuning in, I asked him, why, when I ask you the same thing you asked me, is it a loaded question all of a sudden? And his answer is, because it's a loaded question. Thank you. That's your answer. We don't need no more explaining. You said it's a loaded question because it's a loaded question. So now here's my next question for you. When you asked me those same questions, was it a loaded question then? Now that's a yes or no question. Go ahead, unmute yourself. Give us a yes or no on that one.
No, it was not a loaded question because you already had an answer.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. So you've told me all I need to know. Respectfully, you're not worth conversing with. You're not worth my time. You don't have enough cultural prowess to have this kind of discussion. You ask me a question, and it's not a loaded question. I ask you the same exact question, but now it's a loaded question. Sir, you're nonsensical. There's no reason. There's no rationale. We can't do nothing with this. We can't have a conversation with this. You can't pass go. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to give the audience the luxury of choice. Put a 0 in the chat if you guys don't want to hear from him anymore and we should get on to the next one. Put a 1 in the chat if you want me to just let him unmute himself and just speak uninterrupted for some time and let's just hear what he has to say. I see a lot of 0s in the chat. Someone says they're curious. A lot of people are saying next. How about my folks on YouTube? I'm seeing 0s in the YouTube chat. Hey, just be, are you still catching the echo on the YouTube? Let me know. I'm seeing 0s. Polo says, this man said Creole is an African language. Yeah, Lisa's curious too. Well, you know what? I'm going to cater to the minority. I'm going to do the unthinkable and I'm going to cater to the minority. I'm going to go ahead and put a timer on my phone for 3 minutes, and we're going to let our resident Caribbean migrant speak for 3 minutes straight, uninterrupted, so he can get everything he needs to get off his chest. Hold on just a moment. Let me get this timer. Set this baby to 3 minutes flat. All right, sir, the time starts when you unmute yourself and we hear the first word come out your mouth. You may begin.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Yes, I'm a Caribbean expat because Americans have pretty much politicized the word immigrant. So I like saying expat. It's the same thing, but whatever. To answer your question, yes, Creole is an African-European admixture language. It's what we use to communicate with each other throughout the Caribbean and from Brazil. And also into Louisiana. Creole is a Louisiana language. It's an African language. I asked you the question, if you know that if you are Native American, because you obviously look like you're African. You sure do. If you go to anywhere in the United States, you look like you're African.
Guys, I muted him again because now it's going to get interesting. Now it's going to get exciting. I love this. I love that he took it here. Okay. So now I've got a question for you, sir. Since Africa is a continent, it's not a country. Name the country in Africa that has people that look just like me. Name it. You're going to get placed on mute again if something comes out of your mouth that is not a name of an African nation. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
Fulani.
Fulani. Thank you. How do you spell Fulani?
Fulani. Fulani.
Thank you. Now I'm going to put you on mute. Please stay on mute. I'm live streaming on YouTube. I'm live streaming on TikTok. I don't even know how I could properly do this. I don't even know how to go about doing this. You know what? I think I found a way. I'm going to go ahead and share one of my monitors. Let me add it as a source on TikTok. He says, I look like a Fulani African, guys. We're going to pull up some photos of Fulani Africans, and you see me on camera. You see exactly what I look like. So this is going to be an easy comparison to make. Very, very easy comparison.
He said Fulani, right? Those are mixed people. They're Arab looking.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Hey, forget about them being mixed. Whatever. We're going to start with the visual representation. Okay. That's what we're going to start with. Now, first of all, which monitor is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that might be my third monitor, technically. Is it the third monitor? No, it's not the third monitor. Okay, maybe it's the second monitor.
See below. You can see the.
Hold on. Yeah, it's the wrong one. Okay, here's the right monitor. Here's the right monitor. Okay, so let me bring this over to the side now. Now you guys can see my screen. Now, my folks on YouTube, let me change it so that the folks on YouTube can also see my screen. Let me move this to the side. Let's type in Fulani men. Perfect. All right, we got an image of a Fulani man right here. Now, guys, go ahead and vote. Go ahead and cast your vote. Cast your vote, guys. This is a Fulani man wearing a traditional hat. Put a 0 in the chat if you think the Fulani man looks nothing like me. And put a 1 in the chat if you think I look just like the Fulani man. And guys, don't worry. We're not going to cherry pick one photo of a Fulani person. We're going to bring up several different photos of Fulani men. I'm seeing nothing but 0. Somebody says he looks like the dude from Good Times. I'm seeing a whole bunch of 0s on YouTube, a whole bunch of 0s on TikTok. Okay. All right. So nobody says that I look like this Fulani man. Well, let's find another photo of a Fulani man, shall we? I got another photo of a Fulani man. Here we go. Guys, do I look like this Fulani man? Hold on, let me zoom in on him. We got another Fulani. This one got face tats and a turban and shit. Do I look like this Fulani man, guys?
Heck no.
Men lie, women lie, pictures don't. Hey. If I look like the Fulani man, then there's nothing wrong with it. Tell me. Say, yeah, Mike, you look like. Yeah, Mike, you got similar phenotype, the nose, the skin, the freckles. I mean, yeah. But so far,
Show me a picture of you,
hold on, sir. Hold on, baby. Before you ask another question, I'm gonna bring up another Fulani man. Since you said I look like a Fulani man, okay? Here's another image of a Fulani man. And yeah, they might really be mixed with Muslim or something because I'm seeing a lot of them in turbans. I don't know. Maybe that's just a sand African thing. But hold on. All of these people in the slideshow are Fulani. Here's another Fulani man right here. Getty Images. Guys, 0 in the chats if I don't look like this Fulani man, and 1 in the chat if I look just like this Fulani man. I'm seeing 0s again. I'm seeing 0s. Okay. Here, just for shits and giggles, let's go to a 4th Fulani man, okay? I'm going to pull up a 4th Fulani man. We've got yet another Fulani man. And you guys have to let me know. 0s in the chat if I don't look like him, and 1s in the chat if I do look like him. What do you guys think? Do I look like a Fulani man or no?
Nope, but I know who you actually look like.
Hey, don't give away any secrets yet. I'm gonna keep that as a little secret card in my pocket to pull out when I need to. But so far, the Caribbean man, hey, I'm not so surprised that you failed at this test because you're not even like from Africa, Playboy. You're like descendant from African slaves sold by their fellow Africans, shipped to the Caribbean. Then you moved to New York. I mean, I guess you don't even know what a Fulani man looks like if you thought that I looked like one. But go ahead and unmute yourself and let's hear what you have to say. You said something about Native Americans or something, right?
Sure. Show me an African, sorry, not African, pardon me, a black Native American. Yeah, show me some other people from. I'm curious. That's what I'm asking. Show me someone who is black, a black Native American.
Your child. Well, to time out. You're stuttering. Well, to time out. You're stuttering. You're all over the place. Are you challenging me to show you a black Native American? Is that the challenge? Yes or no? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yes.
Is that
I
the
want
challenge?
you-
Okay, yes, that's the challenge. Well, first of all, no offense, you're ignorant because you're looking at a Black Native American. But I think what you really meant is, can you show me like an older photo from like decades ago or something, or like an older photo of a Black man that's indigenous, that's a native, right? Okay, I'll do that for you. Pulled up the Fulanis that you said I look like. You failed miserably. Don't look like a Fulani. Now you're challenging me to show you a photo of a Black indigenous person? Easy. Here's my grandfather, Thomas Jefferson Adams Harjo, Chief Justice of the Muskogee Creek Nation, Tribal King of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Now what? Now what? You can't show me a Fulani that I look like. You thought you were cooking. You said, well, Mike, show us a Black indigenous man that you look like. How about my grandfather, dumbass? Did I pass your test? Oh, wait, but then there's more. You're probably thinking to yourself, well, no, that's just a Black man. That's not a Native American Black man. Well, let's go to the Dolls roll. You probably don't know what a Dolls roll is, huh? When you go to the Dolls roll and type in my ancestor's roll number 2145, his name is Thomas Jefferson Adams Harjo, and clearly he's listed right here as a full-blooded Creek by blood.
Yeah, Mary, bring your goofy ass up here too.
So not only did I show you a picture of a Black Indian, I also verified that he's 100% Creek by blood. Now what do you have to say? Oh, it's getting awkward, huh, guys? It's getting real. I think I hear awkward silence on the line. Go ahead, unmute yourself, Caribbean boy.
Let's not name call. We're being very respectful here.
If you thought that me calling you a Caribbean boy was name calling, you're in for a rude awakening. You should get out the kitchen already if you think that was name calling.
That's not what I was talking about. You called me ignorant.
Go ahead.
When I was curious.
That wasn't me calling you a name. That was a clever observation. Go ahead.
An astute observation at that.
Put my pinky out when I drink, okay? That was an
It
astute
is
observation.
curiosity and not ignorance. So, thank you. So you said that this person is related to you and is a supposed Black American who has been here for thousands of years before the beginning of time, supposedly. So you said that they were there from the beginning of time. So when supposedly, because I don't know if you believe that majority of the people on Earth came from Africa, the cradle of life. So you think that
if it's the cradle of life, why did you go to New York instead of Africa? Because if it's the cradle of life, why didn't you want to go live in the cradle of life?
Because New York is actually in close proximity to my country. It's cheaper.
Hey, I don't care what's closer and cheaper. If I think something is the cradle of life, I want to go there. I want to be on the soil. I want to breathe the air. The cradle of life, you say? Wow. I've never heard of Africa being the cradle of life. Do tell more. Unmute yourself. Do tell more.
I agree. You've never heard it before. But with that ideology, why don't you think Europeans go back to Europe? They know exactly where they come from. Why don't they leave?
So he tried to challenge me on knowing my customs, my tribe, my language. I turned it around on him. He claimed it was a loaded question. He then further cements his disrespect by claiming I look identical to a Fulani African. I bring up several photos of Fulani Africans. He fails. Then he further goes deeper with the disrespect, trying to challenge me to show a photo of a Black indigenous person. I show my grandfather and also the Dolls roll where he's listed as a full-blooded Creek by blood. Now this imbecile is trying to rant to me about Europeans? Yeah, you're not worth my time anymore, respectfully. Jesus, I got to get ready for a live stream in a minute, y'all. I got research I'm trying to do. Hey, I got a good clip out of him. Don't worry, guys. I'll clip this up. I'll put it on YouTube. Go to YouTube, Mike TV. Ignorant Caribbean man claims Black Indians look like Fulani Africans. It'll be a great video, guys.
Mary need to bring her YT ass up here because she want that work.
Mary had a little lamb. Mary had a little lamb. I'm gonna give you an invite, Mary. Don't be shy.
Miss Mary right here, she talking mess, saying, "Oh, y'all don't look Indian." Come on, come get this work.
And Mary probably looks like never mind. I'm not gonna go. I want to be respectful. Mary, call it. If Mary doesn't call in, then I'll just go no holds barred. I just sent her an invite. So if Mary's not on the stage in the next couple minutes, you know it's because she's afraid. You know, Mary's the type of white girl to cross to the other side of the street when she sees a black Indian coming her way. Oh, Lord. We do have somebody called Elaine calling in. I think Elaine might be the last guest because I really do have to start preparing for a whole bunch of live streams tonight. But come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. I told y'all that was going to be a good clip, didn't I? I told y'all we was going to have a Caribbean boy trying to claim that we look like Fulani Africans. I mean, damn. Damn, if I didn't show you, you would have thought I was lying to you. You see, when I do these broadcasts, I'm really putting on a masterclass. Not only am I debating and defending the honor of our true heritage, but I'm also showing you guys how to deal with these idiots who just make random asinine claims that go unchallenged. Next time an African try to tell you we look like Africans, tell them the same shit they be saying to us. Africa's a continent, not a country. Name the country that has Africans that look like us and watch them fail miserably. Miserably. Shout out to Jack. He just found me on YouTube. Yeah, go ahead, switch over there if you like. Indigenous Brett says that was fire. Look who's talking says that's content gold. I mean, somebody got to do it. Somebody got to do it. TRM says they are lost and confused. Jake Long says they think we all look the same. I mean, hey, until we pull up a photo side by side, right? And that last photo was wild. The last photo was absolutely wild. But guys, the phone lines are open. If anybody wants to call in, the number is 405-351-4721. The folks watching on TikTok can also just request to join through TikTok. Although I would really love to hear from the trolls, the contrarian individuals that think Black Americans are not indigenous to the Americas. Although I would mostly like to hear from them, everyone's welcome to call in. Even if you have just general questions about genealogy, tribal benefits, tribal citizenship, American Indian history, I'm your resident expert. And make sure to check out the website, nativeblackancestry.com. You can get lots of historical resources, such as hold on, I just updated the website. We got the book list with primary sources. I got my new book I just launched. I got a hidden heritage course with 3.5 hours of video modules, breaking everything down from pre-colonization to present day. And of course, if anyone needs like personalized step-by-step guidance with genealogy research, you can always access my calendar through my website and book a one-on-one consultation with me where I teach the 3-step process that me and my family used to trace our heritage and get tribal citizenship with the Muskogee Creek Nation a few years back. But guys, while we wait to see if we have a live caller, let me allow you guys to vote yet again. Check it out. Put a 0 in the chat if you'd like to now get on to the immigrant girl from South America who claims that our DNA is African. 0 in the chat for the immigrant girl claiming DNA says we're African. Put a 1 in the chat if you want to hear me check some people on DNA testing sites such as AfricanAncestry.com and Dr. Rick Kittles and all that fugazi shit he's doing over there. I mean, put a 1 in the chat if you would like to actually watch me expose some of these DNA African websites, and put a 0 in the chat if you'd like to see the interaction between me and another foreigner trying to claim our DNA is African. We're African because of a DNA test. I mean, okay. All right. Indigenous Breast is both. We got a lot of 0s. Well, you know what? Let's first go to the migrant girl. Migrant girl, come my way. Where are you, migrant girl? Ma'am. Where are you, migrant girl? Migrant girl going once. Migrant girl going twice. Here she is. Oh, Lord. Ma'am, can you cite a source? Who said to be Black, to have melanin, you have to have sub-Saharan descent? Where did you get that from? Girl calling in from the Dominican Republic.
Census.gov or
Census.gov. Nowhere on the website makes the asinine statement that the only way you can be a Black person is from having sub-Saharan African descent. You just failed miserably. I've been all up and down and through census.gov. Where are you calling in from and what's on your mind?
I'm from the Dominican Republic, and the name Cat King is just a K-pop idol.
Oh, nice. K-pop. And when you say you're from the DR, by way of?
Are you asking me, do I have native ancestry from the DR?
No. When I say by way of, I'm asking where's your family from originally?
I'm not too sure. I'm also adopted. I did take a DNA test, so I know what I am from Ancestry, if that's what you mean.
Okay, no. It's okay. We can move past that if you were adopted and you don't really know definitively where your ancestors come from. I totally understand. What's on your mind?
Okay, so I'm not denying the fact that Black Americans can definitely be Indigenous because Black Americans and Indigenous people used to live together. So obviously they would have intermixed and created Afro-Indigenous people or Black Indigenous people. So just like you can't really claim that all Black Americans are Indigenous to the America, though.
Did you have more for us, or was that it?
No, I also just want to know why you claim that Black Americans are Indigenous to the America.
Okay, well, short answer is because we are, but you got a little bit of background noise, so I'm just going to mute you for a moment while I acknowledge your 2 points that you made. Your first point was, hey, I think some of you guys can be Indigenous because like Africans were in close proximity of Native Americans, so there had to have been some intermingling. Well, let's start there. You believe that the only way that there are Black Indians is through Africans intermingling with Native Americans? Yes or no? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
No, because there's obviously people Black Americans who did live with them and didn't mix with them. They would still be Indigenous because
now I gotta place you on mute. That was a yes or no question. I need a yes or no answer. Are you making the claim that the only way that there is a Black Native American is if they descend from Africans that mixed in with a Native American? Yes or no?
Oh.
What was that?
No.
Okay, no. So then let us know what you theorize of girl in DR, I think that's the Dominican Republic. Let us know in the Dominican Republic what you theorize is the different ways that you can have Black Indigenous Americans. If you're saying that it's not exclusively from Africans intermingling with natives.
Because again, you can grow up with that culture and that would still be a part of who you are because that's the culture you grew up with. That's the language. You know, those people, they're your people because you grew up with that culture. You don't need.
I gotta mute you, ma'am. You're going off on a bit of a tangent. I'm gonna try to break it down super simply, okay? I'm saying that there are Black Indigenous Americans with zero African admixture. You're claiming that the main way that there's a Native Black American is if they descend from an African that mixed with a Native. Then when I try to hold you to that statement and ask you directly, are you claiming that that's the only way there's Black Indigenous people? You said no. So then you have to let us know what are the other ways that we can get Black Indigenous people. You rambling about being in close proximity and knowing the culture and stuff, that doesn't make you Indigenous just because you know some Indigenous culture. So if you don't think that every Native Black American has African admixture, let us know what knowledge you have of these Black Indigenous people with zero African admixture. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
Well, then they wouldn't be Black. To be Black, you need sub-Saharan descent.
Oh, Lord. Ma'am, can you cite a source? Who said to be Black, to have melanin, you have to have sub-Saharan descent? Where did you get that from? Girl calling in from the Dominican Republic.
Census.gov. Or
Census.gov, nowhere on the website makes the asinine statement that the only way you can be a Black person is from having sub-Saharan African descent. You just failed miserably. I've been all up and down and through census.gov. Try again. Cite a source.
I have another source.
Great. What's the name of it?
Okay, nih.gov.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to pull that up right now, and I'm going to share my screen so everybody can see it. She said nih.gov. nih.gov. All right, guys. We're on the National Institute of Health. What am I looking for on the National Institute of Health website?
You should look at, I think, biracial, multiracial, or of mixed races. What it says at the top. Actually, let me go to the top. It says racial and national origin.
I don't see anywhere on the top where it says race and national origin. It says National Institute of Health. It says health information, grants and funding, news and events, research and training, institutes at NIH. Doesn't say anything about race.
I mean, I have it right in front of me, National Institution of Health. And then right here says race and national origin. And then if I scroll down, it's going to say, hold on, Black and African American. And African American is a person whose origin in any Black racial groups of Africa.
And how can I find that page that you're looking at?
I'm not too sure, but I can turn on my camera and show you what I'm looking at.
Your camera being turned on and showing us wouldn't really be big enough for everybody to see it. And plus my audience on YouTube wouldn't be able to see it at all. So how can I look up what you're citing as a source? I'm sure everybody watching right now who's a Native Black American would love to do this fact checking with me. So how do I find that on this website?
Okay, if you're on the homepage, try going to National Health Style Guide. This is what it's showing me here.
I don't see anything on the homepage that says National Health Style Guide. Autism, data science, loan repayment programs, standardized organoid modeling. I mean, here. I'm gonna give you a perfect example, okay? This is how you would cite a source. You would bring up the source and let everybody know exactly where to find it. That's the way you cite a source. You don't get up here and say, hey, it's on this website, somewhere buried on this website. I'm on the right page, but I can't teach you how to get to the right page. That's not how you properly cite a source. But you know what I want to do? We've got 5 people backstage. We've got over 400 people watching between YouTube and TikTok. Let me give the audience the luxury of choice. Guys, put a 0 in the chat if you don't really care to speak to a girl calling in from the DR who doesn't even know her own origin, but is trying to dictate heritage to us and tell us that in order to have melanin, you have to come from sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, put a 0 in the chat if you really don't care to speak to her anymore, and put a 1 in the chat if you would like to speak with her further and see where she's going with all this. I would say that I'm surprised that a girl in the DR is calling, obsessing over our origin story, but honestly, I'm not surprised because we get this all the time. We just had a Jamaican a minute ago. But ma'am, stay on mute real quick while I conduct this voting poll, okay? We've got to see if the audience wants to hear from you any longer or if they just want to have you exit stage right. A lot of people are saying bye. I'm seeing a lot of zeros. I'm seeing so many zeros. They said she can go, adios. I mean, hey, you know what's so crazy to me though? Is she says she's from the DR, right? She's from the DR. Isn't the DR the same place that got you DR Dominican woman talking like this?
Reminder that Dominicans are not black. We are not black. No matter how much black Americans,
She's not one of us. She's delusional.
We're not black. We'll never be black. We're not black. And it's a reminder to black Americans who are so pathetically forcing Dominicans to label themselves as black. We keep telling them we have our own culture. We have our own culture.
Ooh, you know what, guys? I think you might have had an echo there. Let me run that back. This is what we're dealing with when we talk to these Dominicans. She's trying to tell me that all Dominican, or not, excuse me, not all Dominican. She's trying to tell us that all melanated people globally come from sub-Saharan Africans. Meanwhile, y'all in the DR bleaching your fucking skin and claiming you're not black.
Reminder that Dominicans are not black. We are not black. And no matter how much black Americans cry about it, we are not black. We will never be black. Yes, I look black, but we are not black. And it's just a reminder to black Americans who are so pathetically forcing Dominicans to label themselves as black. We keep telling them we have our own culture. We know black, papi. They still force it on us.
Okay. All right. I got it. So 1 minute they claim they're not black. People are forcing them to be black. Next minute they're on my stream claiming that everybody who's black comes from sub-Saharan Africa. Funny thing is, I asked her where her people are from, and she said she don't know. If she really believed that all black folks come from sub-Saharan Africa, her dumb ass should have said, I descend from sub-Saharan Africans. But she didn't want to identify with that African shit, did she? She identified as a Dominican. And when we do our genealogy, when we do our research, when we get tribal citizenship and can prove it with ease, we have foreigners calling in, trying to tell us, no, you have melanin and all melanin comes from sub-Saharan Africa. Oh, okay, ma'am. All right. All right. The audience didn't really want to hear any more that you had to say. Let's see who the next caller is. Derek Cherokee says she had 3 African flags in her bio. I mean, this is the identity crisis that we speak of. Come on. Latinos and Africans have the biggest identity crisis. And a girl from the DR, is a living example of both. because you Dominicans are mixed with African slave DNA and Spanish conquistador DNA. So y'all got the biggest identity crisis. Hence the me no black poppy, me no black poppy, me no black, me no black. All right. Yeah, the DR is super confused. So confused. Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
Bloodline with an African slave. What benefit does a rich plantation owner have mixing his lineage with an African slave? Absolutely none. Zilp, zilch, nada. But can we list any reasons why a rich elitist plantation owner would mix his bloodline with an indigenous community? With a local indigenous woman? Absolutely. For one, perhaps you can convince some of her people to come live on your property and till the land on your plantation. For two, you can have half-breed children with her, and since indigenous tribes are matrilineal, the tribe will still accept that half-breed as a full-on tribal member, but you can raise him as an agent provocateur. Guys, I'm not just talking about... My ancestors lived this. This is history. Look it up. You guys hear about Indians that signed treaties that resulted in their tribes walking the Trail of Tears, right? Every single Indian that signed one of those treaties had a Scottish father and an Indian mother. I'm a part of the Muskogee Creek Nation. The half-breed Scottish sellout that signed the treaty that had our tribe walking the Trail of Tears, his name is William McIntosh. He owned plantations. He had slaves. His mother was a Creek Indian. Father was a Scottish Irish man. And his cousin was Governor Troop, the governor of Georgia. You see how this works now? Now you get it, right? Why would a rich plantation owner ever have a baby with a fucking African? Mix his whole bloodline with a fucking African. He would never do no shit like that. They look at Africans like they're, no. But you see how if the Scottish man has a baby with a local indigenous woman, he can raise his child to be a half-breed agent provocateur that signs his land away, signs the tribe's land away to his cousin, who's the governor, and now white settlers can come into the territory of Georgia. This is history. This isn't speculation. This is history. This is not conspiracy. Look it up. Fact check everything I just said. William McIntosh, governor of Georgia, George Troop, his cousin. His father's Scottish, Irish, Scottish Highlander heritage. Look this shit up. The Scottish have been coming into the Southeast and mixing and intermarrying with local indigenous communities since the 1500s for trade advantages. But we supposed to believe that plantation slaves came from Africa and they fucking on their slaves, having mixed families and shit with their slaves. And we supposed to think that these is Africans they're mating with? Okay, I digress. Oh shit, I forgot I had a panel member up here. Okay, I'm cooking. Sugar, go ahead, unmute yourself. What's on your mind, girl? I'm sorry. I went on one. You're still on mute, Sugar. There you go.
I'm sorry. I was arguing with somebody in the chat. Somebody named Brittany something.
Hey, don't pay these people no never mind when they ain't even got the balls to call in and say what they chest.
She said something. She's like, what about before the 1700s? Girl, obviously I'm still tracing my bloodline. I haven't gotten farther than that yet.
And Africans weren't brought to North America in large quantities prior to the 1700s. So what about? before the 1700s.
Right. So what point did you just make anyway?
Yeah,
But
hey, real quick,
whatever.
shout out to Saturn. Saturn says, my last name is Scottish, but it was on your surname list. Yes, there's a lot of Scottish surnames on the surname list on my website. On nativeblackancestry.com, I have a tribal surname list where you can see if any of your family's last names align with the 5 civilized tribes. And you're going to see a lot of European surnames, a lot of Scottish surnames because of the Scottish intermixing and because during the process of forced assimilation, Indigenous communities adopted European surnames. So yeah. Hey, a lot of us got Scottish heritage, but we ain't got no African heritage. I got some German lineage. I ain't got no African in me, though. These motherfuckers want to claim we're mixed. Yes, we're mixed with European, because Europeans have been trying to mix with us and been colonizing us for 500 years. We ain't mixed with no Africans, though. Some of us, but very few and far in between. But go ahead, Sugar. And Israel, the website is nativeblackancestry.com. And Don Juan, you're a musty bush baby bitch because you're talking in the chat, but you ain't calling in. Go ahead, Sugar.
And it is crazy because you can tell the difference between somebody who is from Africa and somebody who is Black and lives in America. Like the facial features are totally different. So I don't even understand why they say stuff like this. I think it's just to gaslight us. I'm not even sure.
It's because they have an identity crisis. It's because the only thing Africans have ever had going for themselves is their alleged kinship to us.
That makes sense. I mean, it's not like I'm ashamed or anything like that, but it's just that I know my background. So I'm not going to claim to be something that I'm not.
They use the shame as a deflection, as a straw man argument. You could never say that we're claiming to be indigenous because we're ashamed to be African when most of our ancestors fell for the government psyops that was the Pan-African movement of the 80s and the 90s, and we was rocking dashikis and unks and proud to be African. We ain't got no problem praising our African heritage if we actually have it. But if we learn that we've been lied to and we do our genealogy and we ain't got no Africans on the family tree, then we got to figure out what our real roots are. And guess what? It's right beneath your feet.
Right. And I did reach out. I have to go through my emails, but I did reach out to try to get some help with the rest of my timeline. And I'm sorry, not my timeline, my family tree. And they gave me a bunch of links. And it was a little overwhelming to look at. So I did want to speak to you about that because I know you said you do help with that. So I'm assuming that your process might be a little bit more easier.
Yeah.
Because that stressed me out just reading the email. Like I appreciate the information, but it's a lot to fork through. But I definitely do want to get a membership or whatever comes from finding out my family.
Yeah, it's all about reconnecting with the tribe of your ancestors, just like me and my family were able to do. Absolutely. And if you do need more like personalized guidance, just go to the website nativeblackancestry.com, scroll down the homepage. You can actually hold on a second. I'm not sharing my screen the way that I thought it was. Hopefully YouTube saw all the different fugitive slave ads I was running through and everything. I think I might have been stuck on one page for a moment. Hold on a sec. Let me fix this. We got to share the entire screen. Damn. Hey, YouTube, have you guys even been able to hear the callers on TikTok? Hopefully you guys have been able to. Empress, give me some feedback. I'm just realizing that my audio may not have been connected properly. Are you guys hearing Sugar over here? Yay or nay? Belonging to God says, how do I call in? Just click the StreamYard link in the chat. I'll bring you guys up. We already got somebody backstage in StreamYard that we're going to bring up in a bit. Empress says she can't hear. Okay, cool. All right. So as I was saying, if anybody needs personalized assistance, just go to my website. You can actually access my calendar, pick a day and time that works for you. I do hour-long consultations where I teach you the 3-step process that me and my family followed to trace our heritage and get tribal citizenship with the Muskogee Creek Nation back in 2021. And based on your budget, there's a couple different add-ons that you can get with the consultation. You can pay a little extra to have it recorded. That way I send you a copy of the recording. No need to take notes. You can share that recording with family, friends, et cetera, et cetera. Or there's an extra add-on where you can get more historical context. I give you an hour-long history lesson on everything from colonization to Reconstruction to modern day, really to fill you with historical context, because it's really not enough to just know how to do genealogy research, but you really have to be a cultural expert to a degree. You have to know a lot of historical context when it comes to the tribes of certain areas, why a county is named this way. When the forest is named DeSoto's Forest, who's DeSoto? What was he doing in that area? What tribes were they? What did they do to those tribes through the centuries? Walter Plecker, Racial Integrity Act, 1924, if you're on the East Coast. Naomi, leader of the Vital Statistics of Louisiana, who reclassified Black Indigenous people to Negro and colored. I mean, you have to have a lot of historical context to really peel back the different layers. But yeah, make sure to book a consultation through the website. If you go to the page, book a consultation. On the checkout page, use the coupon code TikTok. One word, all lowercase, and that hooks you up with a 20% discount.
Okay, I will definitely do that, but I wanted to say one more thing. So I actually kind of live in the North Georgia area, and I noticed that upon moving out here, there's like a lot of names that kind of stuck out. And I think that a lot of it might have to do with Native Americans living there at one point. Like there's a river up here. I think it's called I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm just going to spell it. It's Oconee.
Oconee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That's actually from my tribe. That's a word from our language, Muskogee. It actually means water people, or people by the water. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a river up here in the college town in Athens. So
yeah, no, if you look at any state, any county, river tributaries, forests, they're going to be named after one of two things: either a European colonizer, or a local indigenous tribe, or a word from that local indigenous tribe. Do you know what Georgia's named after?
No, I really don't. That's sad.
King George of Europe.
Okay.
Do you know what Louisiana is named after?
No. Not familiar.
Go ahead and give me a guess. No wrong answers. It's okay.
I don't even want to guess.
If Georgia is named after King George, who would Louisiana be named after as far as European nobility?
Probably King Louis.
Exactly. You got it, girl. You got it. King Louis. Okay. Absolutely. Who are the Carolinas named after? King Charles. Who is Delaware named after? Europe nobleman, the Lord of War, Delaware. That's also how the Delaware Indians get their name. The Lord of War, Delaware, was sent there to beat the local indigenous tribes into submission. He did that, and then they renamed the tribe after him. So the state's named Delaware after Delaware, and the local tribes also been rebranded as Delaware Indians. Pretty crazy,
interesting. Huh? Yeah, I wondered that about sports teams too, because some sports teams have the Native American as the mascot, and I always wondered why as well too.
Now, I gave you a few states that are named after Europeans, right? Well, now let's go over some of the states that are named after indigenous tribes or from indigenous words. It's actually half of the states in the U.S. Massachusetts is named after the Massachusetts, which are the local indigenous people. Massachusetts basically means people of the Great Hill. Connecticut comes from Quenehuquat, which is a meaning of beside the long tidal river. I already told you about Delaware being named after Lord Delaware, but it was originally after the Lenape people. Those were the people in that area. Michigan, named after the Michigama people. Illinois, named after the Illiniwek. It means tribe of superior men. Wisconsin comes from Misconsin, which means it lies red, referring to the Wisconsin River. Vermont is also from a Abenaki indigenous word. Ver means green, mont means mountain. Maine is also from the Mangu Higan, or the Maine tribe. This is also a Abenaki people. It's a word for mainland. Dakota means allies or friends. That's an indigenous word. Kansas comes from the Kansas tribe, meaning people of the south wind. Nebraska from the Mithaska tribe means flat water. Missouri from the Missouria tribe, meaning people with big canoes. Iowa from the Iowa, meaning sleepy ones. And then when we get into the southeast, you've got Alabama, named after the Alabamu tribe, which is really just a name meaning tribal town or cleared thicket. You've got Mississippi, which is named after the Mississippi people. It means great river. Florida. The word isn't native in origin. You know, it's Spanish since it was colonized by the Spanish, right? But basically it's from a indigenous term meaning flowery. Tennessee is from the Tanasi people. That's a Cherokee town name meaning place. And then even places like Oklahoma. That's from the Choctaw. Okla means people, Huma means red people. And we can go on and on and on, but guys, look it up. States, towns, counties, national parks, they're either going to be named after a colonizer, a conquistador, or an indigenous tribe. But go ahead, Sugar.
Well, I appreciate the history lesson. I am going to go on your website so I can do some more digging, and I'm going to get out of your hair.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you.
You too.
You have a good one. All right. So here's the order that we're working on. We're going to bring Spicy up, then we're going to bring up Infamous Fader. If anybody else wants to call in, go ahead and request to join if you're on TikTok. If you're on YouTube, click the StreamYard link in the chat. I'm opening myself up for live debate. If anybody disagrees with tonight's prompt, which is as follows. Latinos and Africans have the biggest identity crisis. Black Americans are indigenous to America. Prove me wrong, call in. Or even if you don't want the smoke, maybe you're just seeking knowledge like the last caller, so you can pick my brain. I'm your resident expert. Unless you know somebody who can give you this kind of information live, unscripted, unedited. Let's talk about it. Miss Lane's Pressure just joined backstage. So we're going to do Spicy. We're going to go to Infamous. Then we're going to go to Miss Lane's Pressure. Spicy, when I bring you up, let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
What's going on, Mike?
Hello. Where are you calling in from?
From California.
North or south?
Southern.
Oh, okay.
We
Yeah, I'm
talked
from
a couple
Northern
months
Cali.
ago. Yeah, I came up on here. You was cussing some lady out.
That sounds like me. Yeah.
Yeah, but she tried it though. She didn't know what she was talking about.
Hey, wait, hold on. For people who are unfamiliar with me, give them the full context. I was cussing a lady out because she deserved it.
You did. You did. She was on some bullshit.
I don't remember what happened, but I know if past Mike was cussing out a lady, it's because she was disrespecting our heritage, our culture, our ancestors, and she deserved every venomous
She
word.
just was talking about like a bunch of different tribes and shit, and she was just all over the place. Yeah, she was talking about what your one ancestor you was up here just talking about, and you like, that's my ancestor. I know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I wanted to come up because I had a couple questions for you. What do you know about the Osage Indian herbs? Yeah, let's get into it.
Somebody brought this up a few nights ago. So somebody said, Mike, are those our people? Mike, why would our people mix with these and then get taken out by the Mike? What's going on there?
Right.
Them ain't our people. That's them Siberian migrants. That's them bear. Our people wasn't willy-nilly marrying white boys and then getting the house bombed by them so they could steal the oil. No, that's them. Come on. That's some Siberian Huskies. That's not us. That's not us.
My second question was going to be, what do you know of any Black American Indians who were considered part of a tribe outside of being called a freedman? Because why do they try to, and I asked that because that Sarah's Oil movie just came out, and that's making me think a lot about the land, and it's making me think like, why do they have to associate us with slavery by the Indians or the Siberians? That's what I want to know. And is there any actual historical records of melanated Indians being recognized without being called a freedman?
Damn, you.
I know. I want you to look. I want you to look.
Such a good. No, it ain't look. I ain't got to look. I already know the answer. I'm just like you just asked such a good question, because this is going to educate so many people. We're hearing in the news about the Creek Freedmen court case. The movie Sarah's Rector just came. Sarah Rector movie Sarah's Oil just came out. There's no way that I can give a simple short answer. So let me just stretch my wrist real quick. Let me just crack my knuckles. Let me just, I'm about to break it all. Now, guys, what I'm about to break down is actually part of a presentation that I give during the one-on-one genealogy consultations I provide. So consider this just some free game, right? But in order for me to properly break this down, I got to bring up an online whiteboard. So give me just a moment.
Okay.
Check this out. I'm going to break it all the way down. I said earlier, I'm your resident expert, right? Some people are new to my broadcast. They're like, you what? How are you an expert? I'm going to demonstrate my expertise right now, live and direct. Check this shit out. Check this out. We got to switch the screen a little bit on TikTok so you guys can see the whiteboard better. And away we go. All right, so first and foremost, you got to understand, when we talk about freedmen, there's two different types of freedmen. You got freedmen of U.S. territory, and pardon the chicken scratch. You know, you guys try drawing with a mouse on an online whiteboard. It's pretty challenging. You got freedmen of U.S. territory, and you got freedmen of tribal territory. Now, what's the difference between tribal territory and U.S. territory? Geographically, not much. We might be in Louisiana. Some of the acreage is owned by a local indigenous tribe, so that's tribal territory. The rest of the land is owned by the U.S. government, so that's U.S. territory, right? Well, let's start by covering some of the similarities between the freedmen of U.S. territory and the freedmen of tribal territory. First similarity. In U.S. territory, you did have some folks that were enslaved, and then they were freed. Hence the term freedman. Pretty self-explanatory. Nothing wrong with that, right? Same thing in tribal territory. You had some folks that were enslaved, and when they got freed, they're regarded as freedmen. But here's the thing that most people don't realize. In U.S. territory, there were also people that were never enslaved, and they still got reclassified as a freedman. How does that work? Here's a good example. A couple of months ago, an older lady, she hired me to trace her family's heritage. When I presented the results to her, I showed her a document where her grandfather had a labor contract negotiated in Louisiana through the Freedmen's Bureau. So this lady says to me, oh, Mike, my ancestor was a freedman, so he was a slave. Well, I then show her more documentation where her same ancestor is listed in the 1840 Louisiana census as a free person of color. Not only that, her ancestor owned plantations. Not only that, her ancestor owned slaves. But wait, there's more. I found the actual purchase agreement where her ancestor was buying slaves to grant them their freedom. It's called manumission. He would write in the contract, when this transaction is concluded, so-and-so is free and has the full protection of my family. But this lady would assume that her ancestor was enslaved at some point because of this freedman classification. See how that works? Now, you also have free Black Indians, free people of color in tribal territory who are never enslaved, but when it came time to sign up on the Dawes Roll, they get racially reclassified as a freedman. What is the Dawes Roll, some of you are asking? Some people who've heard of the Dawes Roll think it's just like the Indians keeping count of their tribal members or something. No, much more nefarious than that. The Dawes Roll is named after Henry Dawes. Who is Henry Dawes? A Massachusetts senator. They sent a white boy from Massachusetts out to Oklahoma to pick and choose who's an Indian and who's not an Indian anymore. They created a Dawes Commission. They had white federal agents go interrogate our ancestors in their homes. Where are your people from? Do you speak the language? How long have you lived in the territory? And guess what? If they didn't like an answer to one of their questions, or if they didn't like the way they looked, then their Dawes Roll application got rejected, and they get absorbed into a Negro, colored, or mulatto category. And if they were lucky enough to get placed on the Dawes Roll, well, if they failed the brown paper bag test, if they were too dark-skinned, they got racially reclassified as a freedman. Now check this out. What incentive does the European-ran Dawes Commission have in racially reclassifying Indigenous people as freedmen, even though they weren't slaves? Check this out. When we talk about Indian removal 1830s, I told you guys earlier, it was half-breed Scottish sellouts who were signing these treaties. And when the tribes go west of the Mississippi to Arkansas, Oklahoma, they're going there thinking it's now Indian territory. They're going there because they now have a treaty with the US government that says, go west of the Mississippi. You can have these hundreds of thousands of acres. We will not fuck with you. You will not have a single white settler step foot on your land. You're going to give us all your rich land in the Southeast, the finest agricultural land in the world. You're going to give it up in the Southeast, go to Oklahoma and Arkansas, and we ain't going to mess with you no more. That was the agreement. That was the treaty. But guess what? A couple decades later, some Europeans sneak over to Indian territory. They go report back to Uncle Sam and say, Uncle Sam, have you lost your damn mind? You don't realize that that land we gave them Indian folks to relocate to is rich with oil? So what does Uncle Sam do? They create something called the Curtis Act, which dissolves tribal governments. Hey, tribes, you ain't running yourself no more. We run you, the federal government, that is. After the Curtis Act, they come up with the Dawes Roll, the Dawes Commission, where these European agents come out to Oklahoma and pick and choose who's an Indian and who's not an Indian no more. So many of you guys have heard of the term $5 Indian, and you've probably asked yourself, how are these European settlers able to pay $5 to get placed on the Dawes Roll fraudulently? Because their European buddies were in charge of the Dawes Roll. That's how. Let's talk about it. Now, here's a difference between the freedmen of U.S. territory and the freedmen of tribal territory. The freedmen of U.S. territory were owed, promised 40 acres and a mule. They never got it. The freedmen of tribal territory were owed 160-acre land allotments per person. Instead, they got shorted and they received 40 acres per person. So I guess you can say one group of freedmen got their 40 acres, the other did not, metaphorically speaking. Now, this is where the story of Sarah Rector comes into play. Look up Sarah Rector. They don't even really say nothing about her being a Creek Indian. Remember, I'm a Creek Indian. That's my tribe. She was a member of my tribe. They don't really say nothing about that. They call her the youngest, richest colored girl in the world in the early 1900s. Well, how did her family get all that wealth? Because they descend from Creek Indians who, because the color of their skin was too dark, were racially reclassified as freedmen. So instead of getting 160 acres, they got 40 acres, but they still got lucky because their 40 acres had oil beneath it. But I don't really know if it was a blessing or a curse. And then I don't really know if the movie actually gets into this in detail. I know they're going to talk about the conflict. I know they're going to talk about the conflict a little bit, but they're going to whitewash it. They're going to sugarcoat it because check this shit out. Check this out. When I researched Sarah Rector, I found out when the land that she inherited had oil beneath, she was assigned a white guardian. When I heard that she had a white guardian, I said, what? She was an orphan? I know she didn't have a mama and a daddy.
She had parents, and they still did it.
Exactly.
And imagine how many other wealthy Black American Indians they assigned guardians to when their families were still alive and well.
No. Hold on. I'm gonna place you on mute. I'm gonna keep cooking, but I thank you for interjecting with that. She said, "I wonder how many." Every single one, every single Black Indian who already got disenfranchised by being racially reclassified as freedmen, by getting only 40 acres instead of 160 acres. Well, if their land had oil, the local government said that they were unfit to manage such wealth, so they were all signed white custodians, white guardians. Sarah Rector had a mother and a father, a whole nuclear family, but they still assigned some white boy to manage her financial affairs. She had grown men camping on her front door trying to marry her at 12 years old to get her oil money on some Tears of the Flower Moon Osage Clan type shit, but we wasn't going for it. The Klan tried to terrorize her off the land, come through with miniguns and shit. They're going to show a little bit of that in the movie, but I'm sure they're going to water it down a bit. But guys, when you look up Sarah Rector, you hear about the youngest, richest Black girl in the world, but they don't lead with she's a Black American Indian. When you hear about Tulsa, Black Wall Street, Tulsa Massacre, Greensboro, they tell you this is a Black town. Where's this Black town? In Indian territory. How did all these Black folks get all this land in Indian territory to make these Black towns? Because they were Indian. They took their land allotments and made the city of Tulsa and other famous Black towns all across Oklahoma. But you guys don't know that this history is hiding right in front of us. And now you see why I'm so passionate about what I do. Now, when the sister said earlier, Mike, is there any Black Indigenous Americans that didn't get racially reclassified as freedmen? Yes, my ancestor is one of them. But to be a richly melanated person and not get racially reclassified as a freedman, it seems to me you have to be a very notable person. And this is what I mean. If you go to my website, nativeblackancestry.com, and you scroll down, I have a little excerpt on my grandfather, Thomas Jefferson Adams Harjo, Creek Indian Town King, Chief Justice of the Muskogee Creek Nation in the 1800s. He's also written about in this book, The Indian Territory, its chiefs, legislators, and leading men. Matter of fact, he has a whole chapter written about him. And this is not the only book that writes about him. There are several. He was a very, very prominent individual. And God damn it, if I bring up the photo of him and blow it up a little bit, hold on. For anybody wondering if I just ripped some random photo of some dude off the internet, I mean, God damn it, tell me you don't see a resemblance. Let's talk about it. But when you say, are there any Black Indigenous people that didn't get racially reclassified as freedmen? Yes, there are some, but it's challenging. Most, if they weren't able to fight it, if their family weren't famous enough, most got racially reclassified. But when it comes to my grandfather, because he's such a man of note, because he descends from such a famous bloodline, there's so many books written. I'm not talking about him now. On him, there's like 4 or 5. On the bloodline, the Perrymans, the Graysons, dozens of books. But if we look him up on the Dolls Roll, come over here to the Dolls Roll real quick. His roll number is 2145. His name is Thomas Jefferson Adams Harjo. 2145. Here he is right here, Thomas J. Adams for short. It says clearly under blood quantum, full. He is listed as a full-blooded Creek by blood. But I mean, if you look at the photo, even though the photo is black and white, you can tell this is a melanated man right here. Census records later reclassified him as a Negro. Oklahoma census records have him down as a Negro, but he's listed as a full-blooded Indian, member of the Creek Nation, Chief Justice of the tribe, Town King, member of the House of Warriors. I mean, let's talk about it. Now, we got to get back to the Dolls Roll real quick, because this is how the whole Creek Freedmen court case you guys been hearing about in the news comes into play. Check this out. Do you guys notice that whether you're classified as a Creek Freedman or a Choctaw Freedman or a Chickasaw freedman or a Cherokee freedman, it doesn't matter the tribe. Do you guys notice that everybody labeled as a freedman has a blank spot? Do you see these blank spots? That's the blood quantum category. They purposefully did not record the Indian blood of those that are classified as a freedman. So when you guys hear about the Creek freedmen trying to get their citizenship rights back, this is what it's about. There was something called the Treaty of 1866. The Treaty of 1866 said all tribal members are created equal, regardless if they were ever enslaved or not. Well, guess what? When the $5 Indians finally got control of the tribes in the 70s and the 80s, guess what they did? We're going to focus on my tribe right now, but they did this in most of the 5 civilized tribes. My tribe, the Muskogee Creek Nation, in 1979, they changed our tribal constitution in the middle of the night. And this is what they changed it to. They said it's no longer good enough for you to have an ancestor listed on the Dawes Roll as part of the tribe for you to be a citizen. That's not good enough no more. From 1979 onward, to be a citizen of the Muskogee Creek Nation, you have to not only have an ancestor listed on the Dawes Roll as part of the tribe, but that ancestor has to also have a blood quantum listed. So thousands of Black Indigenous people were kicked out of the tribe overnight in 1979. Why? Because their ancestors were racially reclassified as freedmen and had no blood quantum recorded. I just gave you an example of one of my full-blooded ancestors, right? Well, let me give you an example of one of my ancestors that are not listed as full-blooded. Roll number 1017, Pleasant Tobler. During the genealogy consultations I provide through my website, I show Pleasant Tobler. Some people ask me, hey, Mike, Pleasant Tobler, it says his blood quantum is 1/2. Why is that? Was he like half white, half Indian? Was he like half African, half Indian? No. Both his parents were full-blooded Creek by blood, but his daddy, Fred, was too dark-skinned, so he got reclassified as a freedman. And even though he's a part of the tribe, if you're classified as a freedman, you have no blood quantum written down. So now Pleasant only has one parent with a blood quantum, so now he's a half-blood. See how that works? Or what happens a lot of the time is you may have someone who has one parent that's a member of, say, the Choctaw, and then another parent who's a member of the Creek. So now you're still a half-breed, even though technically you're indigenous on both sides, but it's not the same tribe. You see how this works? And here's the real kicker. Here's the real kicker. When people hear the term blood quantum, first of all, they don't realize it's a pseudoscience. The only thing in the world that goes by blood quantum are dogs and Indians, but wait, there's more. When you hear blood quantum, you think it has something to do with your blood. It doesn't. There was never a blood test taken. There was never a DNA test taken. Your blood quantum is predicated on what your ancestors were classified as. So if you're a European that has a cousin that's a Dawes Roll agent and he can get you on the roll for $5, he lists you as a full-blood Indian, now you got a full blood quantum. Or guess what? You'll also see this, IW. What does IW mean? Intermarried white. They were letting folks, Europeans, pay $5 to get part of the tribe. They was allowing white folks to marry into the tribe. They was adopting white folks into the tribe. When y'all hear about Indians that had slaves, you do know that this is the same class of Indian that was signing away treaties to the US government. These are half-breeds with Scottish fathers. And guess what? Some of them got adopted into these tribes in Oklahoma and bring their slaves with them. And now y'all running around talking about, what you think you're Indian? Your ancestor was just a slave of the tribe. The Indians was enslaving each other. These were half-breed sellouts who were raised to be Englishmen. Let's
Mike,
talk about
we
it.
can't see the bottom white part. It's blurry. What you showing at the bottom on the screen?
I don't know what you're talking about. Can everybody see the Dawes Roll, IW, intermarried white?
I can't see it. It's blurry.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody else in the chat says it's clear on their end. So just let me finish out here. What was I saying? Almost lost my track of thought here. I'm up here cooking. Since I'm up here cooking, let this man cook, okay? So again, when we talk about the blood quantum, it has nothing to do with blood. The whole Freedmen thing was meant to racially reclassify and disenfranchise these people. And when we speak to my tribe in particular, you guys may have heard that July 23rd of this year, the Creek Freedmen won a court case granting them citizenship. But it's now, November, and they still haven't got their citizenship and been welcomed back into the tribe. Why? Because our chief signed an executive order delaying their admittance into the tribe. Why are they still trying to delay it? Why did all these tribes kick the freedmen out in the first place? Because Black Indigenous people made up the majority of these tribes. I can bring up the actual quote from the chief at the time in 1979, where he says they have to kick the freedmen out because they're the majority and they have the biggest voting power. Guys, they're kicking the Black Indians out of the tribe in the 70s and the 80s. That's the same time they get on board with the federal government, create these gaming commissions, and get all these casinos and all this casino money. If the freedmen get back into the tribe, not only do they have voting power, but our tribe would have to get rid of all blood quantum stipulations, such as this. We have a stipulation in our tribe where everybody can vote, but in order to be on the national council, or in order to be a chief, you have to have at least a quarter blood quantum. That's how the small elitist class has been able to remain in power in the tribe and do all this funny shit with the money and kick the Black Indians out, et cetera, et cetera. But when the freedmen get welcomed back in, they have to get rid of all blood quantum requirements, meaning anybody can run for office. And now guess what? We probably gonna have a Black Indian chief. And when a Black Indian chief gets control of a tribe like that, that's making billions of dollars in annual casino revenue, imagine what kind of change they could enact. Now you see the fight that's being fought. So when you ask about the freedmen thing, I just broke it all the way down. When you ask, is there any Black Indians that aren't classified as freedmen? Yes, there are. But a lot got classified as freedmen. And nowadays, because it's been so long and so many Indians marry out of the tribe, the average tribe in America has over 70% of their tribal members that are less than a quarter blood quantum. Why? Because even if your grandparent, like mine, is listed as a full blood, well, if their child marries someone, has a baby with someone outside of the tribe, well, now the blood quantum technically gets diluted. And if the grandchild and so on and so forth keeps marrying and having kids with people outside of the tribe, the blood quantum gets diluted and diluted and diluted. So you see, this blood quantum thing is a real tricky business. But go ahead and unmute yourself, Spicy. Let me know what you think about those gems I just dropped. Give us some closing remarks, and then I got to get on to some more callers.
You definitely clocked what I needed to know. Because when I'm doing my ancestry, I don't see enslaved people, but I see the multiple classifications, which you talked about before. All of those misnomers are us, and it's just further proof that we're Aboriginal. My next question was going to be, what was it? Oh, how do you feel about the land patents, land grants? And I'm talking about the ones within the tribal government and outside of the tribal government. Have you found any of those in your family or researched it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And not only do I find it in my family, but most of my genealogy clients, I'm actually able to source land patents where their ancestors had documents with the president of the United States of America for hundreds and hundreds of acres of land. And you have to ask yourself, if all Black folks in America come from Africa, how do these Africans come over here and secure land patents with the president of the United States?
That part.
Most of us have ancestors that owned hundreds and hundreds of acres of land in the Southeast. How did these Africans come over here, get enslaved, get emancipated, and right after emancipation, they have all this wealth and all this land? Where'd it come from? Why does the Freedmen Bureau need to create a Freedmen Bank to steal the resources of these recently emancipated people if they're African? How did they get these resources if slaves work for nothing? Because they lied to you about slavery. It's much more nuanced than you could ever imagine. They, through the Freedmen's Bank, they stole hundreds of thousands of acres of recently freed people's lands. Not only that, but they're responsible for $1 to $2 trillion of generational wealth being stolen from Black Indigenous communities of the Southeast, because the Freedmen's Bank within 10 years went bankrupt. Then white folks was gambling the money away. They convince you to put your money in the deposit box, put your deeds, your bills of sale in the safety deposit box. And then guess what? When the bank went bankrupt, your local Freedmen's Bank chapter burns up in the middle of the night. You're on your hundreds of acres of land. You go by the creek one day, you got some white folks squatting on your land. You say, wait a minute, what are you doing on my land? They say, no, look, I got a document. This is my land. Here's the deed. You take them to court. The first thing the judge says to you is, where's your paperwork proving that's your land? And you say, oh shit, it was in my safety deposit box in the Freedmen's Bank that got burnt up. It was a scam. It was a psyops. And you have to ask yourself, if these are just Africans, where did all this money and all this land and all this wealth come from? If they were Africans, and guess what? You would emancipate them, you would free them, you would say, pay your taxes, be a good citizen, and you would leave them the fuck alone. But if they're not Africans, if they descend from indigenous communities who've been there in power for thousands of years, then you can't just free them and leave them to their own devices with their land, because they're gonna outmaneuver you. They're gonna outpace you. They're gonna regain control. So you know what you have to do? You have to emancipate them and force them right back on the plantation. That's exactly what happened. The Union didn't really free anybody. They enacted legalized slavery. Your ancestor had the Freedmen's Bureau come to town, negotiate a land contract with their previous slave master. And I've actually read these labor contracts. I was telling you about one earlier. It would literally say you work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. You have to call this person master. You have to respect them. Same shit. Living in the same shack. Same shit. Oh, but wait, it's not slavery anymore. This is modern employment. And what's your compensation? Well, when harvest comes, you're supposed to get a percentage of the crop. Hence the term sharecropping. But what actually happened in reality was when harvest time comes around, slave master pulls out his book and says, hold on, you owe me rent for that shack you've been living in, because you know you're free now. So even though you was living in that shack for free before, now you owe rent. You owe me for the food throughout the year, because you know back when you was a slave, you was getting fed for free. But now that you're free, you got to pay your way around here, right? You got sick a few times throughout the year. You owe me for the medicine. Matter of fact, you're in debt to me. So I don't owe you any part of the crop harvest. Matter of fact, you owe me, and now you're working as a debt slave. And guess what? Our ancestors had the illusion of choice, because if they didn't want to go back to the same plantation, here's their only other option. Go up north to a factory and work in an industrial plantation. And if you didn't choose option A or option B, guess what? They had vagrancy laws, where if they saw you in the South just chilling, hanging with the homies, they can kidnap you, rendition you, put you in a chain gang, and have you on the plantation. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. Reconstruction era, sharecropping, Freedmen's Bureau, Freedmen's Bank, Freedmen's labor contracts. I know so much about this because I research this every single day. I just presented somebody's results earlier today where their ancestors had land patents, had ancestors enslaved, who were actually a mixed family with the plantation owner, which speaks to what I was talking about earlier. Elitist plantation owners having mixed families with local indigenous bloodlines, not African slaves, because there's no benefit to having a baby with an African slave, but there's so many benefits of having a child with a local indigenous woman, you know, like having a half-breed son who can sign the tribe's land away, like William McIntosh did for my tribe. And what did we do to William McIntosh when we heard that this half-breed fucking sellout signed a fraudulent treaty? What did we do to him? We went to his plantation, shot him 60 times, and burnt his plantation to the ground. He got assassinated. Cherokee, they also had a half-breed Scottish sellout, signed the tribe's land behind the back, signed the treaty away behind the back. Guess what happened to them? They got assassinated. Look it up, guys. Don't take my word for it. But go ahead, provide us with some closing remarks, Spicy. Then I'm going to get on to Infamous, and then we're going to go to MB.
So during my ancestral research, I came across something that said free man. So it didn't have the D on the end of it. What tell me about that?
Great. Hey, you batting 10 out of 10 tonight with the questions.
I
sister.
know.
God damn. God, this is how you ask good questions, okay? Most people don't understand the distinction. You have free man and you have freed man. Here's the difference. I already broke down the freedman. Sometimes they were slaves that were freed and now they're called freedmen. Sometimes they're not enslaved at all, but they're racially reclassified as freedmen. When we talk about free man, now we're talking about all these free people of color that are mysteriously on census records during the peak of slavery. One of the biggest hubs for these free people of color are the Carolinas. Look it up. I've done the research. You'll find 1830s, 1840s, tens of thousands of free people of color listed. And you have to ask yourself, if all Black folks in America come from Africa, what cruise ship was bringing free Africans over here to the East Coast in the 1800s? Wasn't happening. So where do these free men, these free people of color come from? They come from hostaged, converted Indians. These are indigenous bloodlines that have already been hostaged and converted in the 16th century, the 1700s. So by the time the 1800s come around, they live as English people. They're living in the town with the white folks. They're dressing in the same clothes. And to distinguish them from others, to protect them and their family, they'll adopt the surname Freeman. But guess what? That still didn't really protect them. That's where we get the story of 12 Years a Slave. Watch the movie. It's actually based on a real story. Solomon Northup. He was an indigenous man from the East Coast. I can't remember if it was the Narragansett tribe or the Nantucket tribe, but he was a free man. He was a violinist. Some slave catchers came up to the north, lied and said they wanted to hire him to play the violin at some event. They drugged him, got him drunk, kidnapped him, sent him to the south where he was a slave for about 12 years until he was able to get word to his people up north, and they came down and got him. This is the history. So when we talk about free man, these are hostaged, converted indigenous bloodlines. Look up all these Ivy League institutions. Do you guys know Harvard was created as an Indian conversion school? Don't take my word for it. Google the shit. Do whatever research you got to do to fact check me. Harvard was created as an Indian school to convert the local indigenous children. They would take you from 2 to 7 years old, release you back into your indigenous community when you're 21, and then now you're going around spreading the gospel, converting other tribal members. Look it up. They were not only converting and hostaging, but they were enslaving and shipping some of these Indians to the East Coast, from the East Coast to Europe, to the Eastern Hemisphere. You guys hear about Pocahontas. I guess you missed the part where Pocahontas died in Europe, right? Before they shipped them as slaves to Europe, they sent emissaries to Europe. They would get local Indian chiefs, get them on the boat to go to Europe to speak to the queen and stuff. Broker a treaty, do negotiations. Okay, you guys are going to give our tribe this in trade goods, and we're going to let you set up some colonies on the East Coast. Some of you guys are confused as to how Europeans were able to colonize the Americas. First of all, it was the First World War. Several different European factions simultaneously colonizing our ancestral homeland for 500 plus years. We're still being occupied to this day, but this is how they did it. It wasn't because they stormed the beaches on some Normandy type shit. They came here as allies. They came here seeking trade. They came here making treaties with us. And when they got a foothold over here, and once they got a lay of the land, and once their numbers rose, they broke the treaties and started enslaving us in place. The word of the day is enslavement in place. Do some of us have ancestors that were enslaved? Absolutely. Did they come from Africa? Hell no. They were enslaved in place. If I'm a rich elitist plantation owner, does it make more sense for me to ship an African from the other side of the world to come here when the African has never even seen these crops that I need to cultivate? The African has never even seen these indigenous crops a day in their life, don't even know how to harvest them, how to plant them, how to plow the land? Or does it make more sense for me to take some of these local indigenous communities that we're displacing, taking their farms and homesteads, converting them to plantations? Well, let's make some of them prisoners of war, have them work their own land like they've been doing for centuries, for eons, since they're expert agriculturalists. But now they work their land for our benefit. And we're also going to mix our bloodline with them and create half-breed children with them. And now you see how we get where we are today. But go ahead, Spicy, give us some closing remarks, and then we're going to segue to the next caller.
All right. So my last thing, a lot of my mother's side of the family comes from Goochland, Virginia. I'm not sure if you ever heard of it, but in Goochland, my grandmother basically is trying to figure out how our family owned land and resources, but were supposedly slaves, but she can't really find slave documents. And I'm trying to tell her that it's not, slavery was not the way that it was presented. A lot of people, a lot of our ancestors who were Aboriginal, they owned slaves, they hired people, and it wasn't how they perceived it to be, like what they tell us in the history. But I'm just trying to get that through her mind, but it's gonna take some time. She a little old school, but she knows that we've been here, but she also thinks that we're the Moors, and I'm like, no.
Moors are African conquistadors that helped the Europeans infiltrate our homeland.
Right.
Now, hey, if you do your genealogy, you might find some Moorish heritage, because those Moors also mix with indigenous communities. But the Moors, they're mostly going to have a presence in Latin America, because that's where, you know, the Spanish were. The Spanish did colonize the Southeast for quite a period of time, though. So if you have roots in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, it is a possibility. But a lot of people cling to this Moorish stuff in a pseudo fashion, not really understanding the history.
Now, how do you feel about
Wait, hold on.
Like,
So, this is some dummy in the chat. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna call you a dummy. I'm gonna be respectful. A biased person in the chat, and I say his bias because his name is literally Moor L. He says Moors are not African. Yes, they're North African Berbers that occupied Spain and Portugal for hundreds of years until they were kicked out with the Reconquista, and then kicked out in 1492 with the Alhambra Edict. But you identify as a Moor, so why don't you click request to join and call in, and you can be our resident expert on Moorish history, and let's compare notes, Mr. Moor L. But go ahead, sister.
And my last thing was, how do you feel about the idea of a lot of these countries being here in America first? Like, we have multiple places called Greece and just all these different country names. How do you feel about that? Do you believe America is the old world?
Well, I don't think that like these countries were necessarily here first. Like Greece wasn't here at it. Like that's a whole different place. But yes, America is definitely the old world. It's falsely labeled as the new world. America was the first to rise out of the ocean's water from an unbroken line of Greenland down to South America, while Europe was just a few islands here and there. America has always been the cradle of life, the cradle of civilization. Guys, the cradle of life and civilization is not in Africa. It's in the Americas, Amazon rainforest to be exact, where they're doing LiDAR scanning and finding pyramids and mounds identical to the pyramids and mounds that we find in the Southeast, St. Louis, all up and down the Mississippian area. So yeah, anybody with half a brain who's done any research knows that America is not only the old world, but it is the land of milk and honey. We feed the world. Do you know how many of our indigenous crops is exported and feeds whole countries and shit? I mean, potatoes are indigenous to the Americas, fed all of Ireland. You be eating Thai food and shit. They be, mixing up the spices. That's from us. Tabasco pepper comes from Tabasco, Mexico, Yucatan Peninsula, Olmec territory. This is all us. Tomatoes, indigenous to here. Chocolate, cacao, indigenous to here. Maize, corn, indigenous to, come on. Wild rice. The list goes on and on. We are it. We are everything. That's why everybody and their mama wants to come here, wants to move here. If you live on the Eastern Hemisphere, you know how you show your fellow countrymen you're rich and you made it? Let's say you're in China. You know how you show that you're rich and you made it? You vacation in America. If you're an African and you're an elitist and you make money, you know how you show you're rich and you made it? You relocate to America. Everybody and their mama wants to move to America and never go home. Why? Because this is the origin of everything. Even when we talk about pyramid building, pyramid culture, Africa has 300 pyramids. The Americas has over 2,000. The biggest pyramid of the world is not in Africa. It's in Pueblo, Mexico. the Cholula Pyramid. The oldest pyramid in the world is not in Egypt, it's in the Americas. Let's talk about it. I can bring up Freemasonic text right now, written in the 1800s, that says that we had a global seafaring civilization and our armies were terrorizing all of Europe and Africa and Asia, and that we set Egypt up as a colony of ours because at that point in time, it was the center of the earth, and we knew that what was at the center would stand the test of time. These aren't my words. These are elitist, secret society Freemasons writing this in their esoteric text that you were never supposed to read. As a matter of fact, if anybody drops if anybody throws a 10 on it through a gift or a super chat or something, I'll take a commercial break and bring up that exact text and read it to you and share my screen so you can read it yourself. But go ahead, give us some closing remarks, and then I got to get on to the next person.
All right, it's been real, Mike. I'll save my 21 questions for the next time that I come up. But I think you have great information, and keep doing what you're doing, bro.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Thanks for calling in.
All right, peace.
Producer says, really? Over 2,000 pyramids here? Don't take my word for it. Look it up. Look it up. 2,000 to 3,000. Olmec, Maya, Zapotec, Teotihuacano, Tenochtitlan, Cahokia. The Philadelphia Museum of Art is built on top of a truncated pyramid site. Come on. You know what they did to our pyramids, our mound sites? Look it up. Most pyramid mound sites in the Southeast were destroyed and converted to cotton plantations. Let's talk about it. Some of the mounds to this day are protected as parks, and some of them are literally called plantation mounds. It's really sick what they did. But guys, we're going to bring up Infamous Fader, and then we're going to bring up more. Oh, thank God. Morel82 called in. Hey, Morel, I'm really glad you called in. I'm totally serious about you being our resident Moorish expert, because I know all about the Alhambra edict, you know, how the Moors backdoored us, the Reconquista, but someone with the name Morel probably has specifically looked into that niche part of history much more than I. So I would love to compare notes and see why somebody who's a Black American would ever identify as a Moor or make the claim that a Moor is not an African, even though they literally come from North Africa. But all right, guys. Infamous, let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
Yes, sir. Yes. What's up, Mike TV?
What's up?
I'm calling from Covington, Georgia right now, but I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, actually. So I've been watching you probably maybe almost 2 years right now, back from the Jermaine Shoemake when you was going off on him on down to going off on E-Black. So keep doing what you're doing, man. So
hey, I appreciate it. You a long-term viewer. Well, let us know what's on your mind, brother.
All right, you know, I just hear people calling in, talking about Black people can't be Indians, talking about there's no such thing as a Negro Indian. But, you know, I'm doing research, listening to my mom, some of my family members, you know, they kind of will kind of stay low key and stay underneath the radar. But I just had to come out. That's why I sent you that document showing in Moxville, North Carolina, showing the Negro, the Indians, you know, native born in there, and those who are registration cards. And, you know, I just had to put it out there for that, to whereas a lot of the Negroes were Indians. I mean, mulattoes are mixed with Indians. I mean, you know, there's different mixers. Some are full blood, but either way it go, all of the admixture from what I've been finding out is still Indigenous and still like, and you know, it's still Indigenous. And there's no African. The African is like the unicorn, is like the mythological. It's very, very hard to find. Would you agree?
No, I would absolutely agree. And I thank you so much for calling in. To give some people some context here, this brother was in one of my live streams earlier. I was running a live replay, and he mentioned that he started doing genealogy research, and he found documents where his ancestor was listed as a Negro Indian. And as soon as he said that in the chat, I'm like, wait a minute, you got to email that over. I'm a digital archivist. I want to add that to the archive. I want to share it with the people. And lo and behold, he emailed it to me. I got it right here. I can pull it up. And I told the brother, hey, I'm going to be live later on. Call in if you can. So I'm glad that you answered the call. And check this out. This is the first time I've seen this. I've never seen a registration card like this before in my life. Check this out. We got the ancestor right here, Boss Bowman.
Yes, sir.
This is the race category. This is how they was doing the races back in what year was this card? 1800s, I know, but when exactly? I'm not seeing the date exact. Sometime in the 1800s, but look at the race category. You got white, you got Negro, you got Oriental, and you've got Indian. And then from Indian, they've got citizen, and I assume this is non-citizen.
Right.
Okay, so guys, back in the 1800s,
you see that
U.S.
native
government
down there too, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We gonna get there, but
right.
But guys, check this out. Back then, they were putting us into such small racial boxes. And no, I don't think this was 1882. This is his date of death.
That was his birthday, 1882. That card was actually in the early 1900s, getting ready for World War I.
I thought this is day to day. Oh no! It says birth. Okay, yeah. I might have zoomed in. I thought that said death. You know, it's kind of old and faded. So his date of birth was 1882. But guys, look, they putting us into 4 boxes. You're either white, you're a Negro, you're an Oriental, or you're an Indian. And what has his ancestor classified as? A Negro Indian. Under Indian, it says yes, meaning he's a citizen of a tribe. And then under U.S. citizen, it says he's native born. So for all these people talking about Black Indians don't exist, this man on the panel is a Black Indian, and he can prove that his ancestor is listed as a Negro Indian.
Well, I've met Mike through Mike TV via YouTube, because I just know that there was more to just my skin color is deeper than that. And he helped me understand he helped me understand my heritage, and that we're not all from Africa or transatlantic, came over here this way, whatever. So he helped us dig deeper into our roots and our lineage. So thanks, Mike.
For me, I was watching through YouTube and I'm so elated and so glad that I came across Mike's TV. And in this little time that I had a chance to speak with him and talk with him and listen to his explanation of how we became who we are and why we are who we are today in this country and the things that we've gone through. He just opened up a whole can of worms, just gave me such an enlightenment of who I am. So I am really, really interested in knowing further about who I am and how history has just been changed from one degree to the next degree. But he has really opened it up, and I'm so glad. I am really motivated through Mike. Mike is, I'm telling you, is a whirlwind of information. So I would recommend anyone that I talk to or see, listen to Mike. He has a phenomenal program there on TV. I tell you, you can't lose. It's a win-win process. And thanks, Mike, for everything. God be with you, that you continue and save you and bless you.
Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British men. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
And look at the occupation. Did you see what the occupation is?
No, I didn't even check. Farming. I'm not surprised.
How many of the pretendians do you know are sharecroppers and farmers? In Moxville, North Carolina, and Statesville, you see what I'm saying? All of the sharecroppers, all of the people, the helping hands, the housekeepers, all of them were the Negroes and were the Indians, period, point blank. And this is in 1882, and he was born in 1882, and this is 17 years after slavery was abolished. Negro Indians were still being born in Moxville, North Carolina. And that's a town to whereas people perceive it to be strictly African and slave, but all the people down there, they wide noses like me, like my mom. I showed you a picture of my mom and stuff, and they all were eventually reclassified as African. And some of them embraced not having the Indian connected to them because back then they were hunted, they were the outcasts, they were the forgotten, still are the forgotten right now. The real ones anyway.
do you mind if I show the picture of your mother?
Oh, go ahead and show her. Yeah.
Because come on, look at this phenotype. Got the straight black hair. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
This don't look like no African. I ain't never seen no African that looks like this.
Right.
Let's talk about it, y'all. Come on. And as you were saying, he's a farmer. Our ancestors were expert agriculturists. Y'all don't understand that from colonization to like Reconstruction era, it was like this. We were farming and we were farming and we were always farming. The only thing that changes is who our yield goes to. The French might invade the area and this area is colonized by the French. So the yield goes to the French. Then the British might be in control of the area now. So the yield goes to the British after the Louisiana Purchase or something, right? We're doing the same thing. It's like here, let me give you a simple example. There's a very, very, very excellent basketball player. And he's just playing basketball. He's just playing pickup games. He going hard in the paint. He just nonstop on the court playing basketball. And he don't know, but on the sidelines are different white men that are fighting over having ownership over him. He don't know nothing about that shit. He just on the court playing basketball. He worried about the next play, but he doesn't know. He went from one owner to the next owner to the next owner, and every point he scores benefits a different European entity depending on the time period and who's colonizing that area. But to the basketball player, he's just dribbling the ball. He's just playing basketball. He's doing what he does day in and day out. And that's what was happening with our ancestors. You got the French and Indian War. You got the Spanish coming to the Southeast. You got the British dominating, expanding outside of the 13 colonies after the American Revolution. Our ancestors were on their land tilling it always, but the only thing that changed is the Europeans that are in the area claiming to have control, claiming that most of the yield needs to go to them or else.
Exactly. Insanity. You know.
And it's funny because I don't really hear of Africans being expert farmers.
Right.
I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to pick on the Africans. I don't hear about any expert agriculture over there in Africa, any expert cultivation. I don't hear about it. And our ancestors were such expert agriculturalists, they literally took blades of grass and turned them into crops. Our wild rice came from grass that we manipulated for centuries and turned to wild rice. Corn or maize started off as a wild grass that we manipulated through centuries and turned into corn on the cob. Our ancestors were some magicians when it comes to the agriculture. So what makes more sense? If I'm a rich plantation owner, do I want to import an African from the other side of the world who's never even seen these crops and then somehow train them on how to cultivate it? Or do I take some of these local indigenous people that I'm disenfranchising and have them come work on my land?
They all were disenfranchised and they all were local, because what I want people to do that will try and dispute everything, what I've been doing for a minute, I would go to each colony, each state, each county, just to see, you know, how it was started, when it was started, who it was started by. And believe it or not, each one of them has a history. At least the colonies, up until America acquired half of the West Coast via signature. But outside of that, you'll realize the first 150, maybe 200 years, the wars were involving indigenous Indians, and the enslaved were the indigenous. There aren't even records and aren't even mentions of a lot of the slave ships. In fact, it's supposedly Africans that arrived on Virginia, which I lived up in that area, and I've been to that where that sign is. They weren't even coming. They weren't even supposed to be going to America. Supposedly they were coming from Mexico. People don't realize that the pirates, when they would go get the booty, they would actually wait until they would go down there and the ships would go get the pearls, go get the black gold, which would be the people. And then when they were taking it back to Spain, back to North Africa, back to Europe, that's when the privateers would attack.
Most of those privateers are crypto Jews.
Exactly.
All European factions, whether French, Dutch, British, Irish, German. They all had crypto Jews in their ranks. So the way it works is there's some crypto Jews part of the Spanish conquistador parties because they're being kicked out of Spain, 1492. Cristobal Colon, Christopher Columbus, he was a crypto Jew. He was sailing not just to distract the Spanish because he was a double agent for the Portuguese, but he was trying to find a new homeland for the Jews. America is a crypto Jewish nation. That's why we rock with Israel so heavy. That's why they have so much power and control over here. The second destination Columbus went to in 1493 was the island of Puerto Rico. I was there March of this year. The Jewish presence is staggering. Synagogues all up and down the island. Y'all got to understand that the Jews are part of the colonizing parties. And when the gold shipment's about to go back to Spain, they let some of their other crypto Jews that are hiding in the other European factions know. And the next thing you know, some pirates just so happen to know when the gold is being transported and they come and steal it. Hence the Pirates of the Caribbean.
And to break down with those cards, they had the enumerators and they had the registrars. And when you would go in there, they would actually look at you, look at the documentation, look at what you were saying, where you were from, what paperwork and what card would show what era you were born in. Because back then they were all born in the houses, and they were born in the houses on their own territory, which were basically like shacks, and which would technically could be a reservation, or then they were the plantations and all of that stuff. And now it's just areas where they're houses. But the registrar. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What you say?
What do you think of this ignorant ass comment that Roy just had the nerve to say? Hold on. Roy just on YouTube says this card just shows there is a Negro who also happens to be recognized as an Indian tribe citizen. That is not saying the race is Indian. Well, dumbass, I got to ask you, why would a Negro be listed as a citizen of an Indian tribe unless they were Indian?
Right. And then there were
the mental gymnastics.
Also, believe it or not, there were also different type of, I wouldn't necessarily say privileges. I would actually say that they were divisions based off of the Indians that were actually native born and that were currently in tribes, because some of them wouldn't really be trusted with like weapons, even though they weren't fighting at the time, but they still would have access to some sort of weapons, and they still could actually group up. Because remember, at that time, he was born 17 years after slavery was abolished. And think about it, the importation of slaves had stopped at 1808.
Exactly.
He was born a native-born Negro Indian in 1882. That's 80 years after the importation. So there were still Black Indians being born in Knoxville around that time. As far as with that guy, man, it is what it is, and that just lets me know that you're on the right track and we're on the right track. If you would have haters, whereas he has obviously no reason to hate or anything.
Like we're literally looking at a card that does not say that there's a citizenship category and then a race category. Well, no, there is a citizenship category. Here's a citizenship category. It's U.S. citizen. And it said he's native born. He's not naturalized. Right? But this is just a race category. Over here, Indian, this is still under the race. Like, do you guys not have eyes? This is the race category. You have white, Negro, Oriental, Indian. And for Indian, they differentiate citizens and non-citizens. But we literally have people viewing evidence of Black indigeneity and they still try to refute it. Come on.
Yeah, like tribal, the different military personnel, some of the soldiers that were actually in tribes and out of tribes, there was different type of stipulations, different type of rules, but it's always just kind of fluff because everybody at the end of the day would pretty much do the same thing. And none of the Negro Indians were allowed to actually fight at that time anyway. So, and that had changed.
They even had laws on the books where like our ancestors couldn't gather in groups of 10 or more. They had laws on the books where they couldn't carry even walking sticks because they were so afraid of they were so afraid of these Black Indians we've been hostage, enslaving in place, converting for centuries. Now they're free. what are they going to do to us? Were they going to massacre us like they did at the Fort Mims massacre? Are they going to massacre us like the Yamasee did in the 1700s? Are they going to massacre us like the Seminoles did to Andrew Jackson's armies? They're so afraid. That's why in 1865, the same year the Civil War ended, the KKK was created. They were not lynching our ancestors and massacring them like that during slavery. It happened here or there. You'd have a slave rebellion. They try to make an example, cut some heads off, put them on pikes. But most of the massacres and stuff, I can pull up a map, y'all. Hold on, bear with me. We're freestyling right now. This is live TV. Let me see if I'm so good with the receipt game that I can just willy-nilly bring up a whole Black massacre map, y'all. Hold on. We got the Louisiana Purchase map. We got the Indigenous Tribes of the Southeast. Walter Plecker and Friends, reclassification PDF. Where is my map? Oh, I think I found it. Let's see if this is the right one. Let's see if this is the right one. Oh, yes, this is the right one. So again, guys, coincidentally, all the Black folks come from the Southeast. And that just so happens to be where all of these Black Indigenous tribes were. This is not where you find the Mongoloid, Siberian, Bering Strait phenotype. You find that in the plains and the high desert, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona. You don't find that in the Southeast. You find Black people in the Southeast. And in the same area is where all these Black massacres take place. And look at the dates on these Black massacres. 1866, New Orleans. 1887, Thibodeau. 1868, Opelousas. 1873, Colfax. 1874, Vicksburg. 1875, Clinton. 1866, Memphis. 1868, Camilla. Wow. 1874, Ifwala. 1898, Wilmington. 1923, Rosewood. 1910, Slocum. 1921, Tulsa. 1908, Springfield. 1919, Elaine. 1917, East St. Louis. 1906, Atlanta. 1920, Okie. 1985, Philadelphia. 1919, Washington. Why are all these massacres all of a sudden happening when we get our freedom in the South? Because they are afraid of what these Black Indians are going to do with their freedom, so they got to keep their foot on their necks. Get the Klan to terrorize them off their land and get them to migrate to the North so that corporations can come and pump oil on their land and steal the resources.
Yeah, man. And based off of your toolage and your teaching, as far as helping me with my genealogy, on my dad's side, I realized a lot of the mulattoes, that's where the mix was. And that's where the definite rumor of, the acknowledged Native American ancestry mix also. And so that mulatto family tree is very, very interesting. And it's easier for some of my friends and some of my family members to believe that that side of my family is indigenous because the way they look. And I also sent you, the pictures of them too, because of the way they look. But I mean, they're mulatto, and I still love every bit of makeup that they contain as well, that makes me. So, I'm very proud of all of that.
We tend to not be ashamed of our ancestors. If we have European admixture, European ancestors, we research them, we learn about them. We try to reconcile when we find that some of them were slave masters and stuff. We research what was going on in Europe and the enclosure and the destruction of the commons that led to all of them being sent here by pawns of elitist noble families. I mean, most of these European settlers, although they're butchering and slaying indigenous populations and stealing their land, they are pawns. They're not kings. The kings never stepped foot in America. Why would they risk their life on a perilous journey for months at sea? The pawns came over, and the bishops and the knights. That's how you play the game of chess. And they fucked over the pawns so bad. They fucked them over so bad. Oftentimes, they would tell them, hey, You're going to sign up as an indentured servant, unaware that when they came over, they can be gambled like property and sold at the slave auction block and shit. But they would tell some of them, hey, you're going to come over, we'll set you up with some land, farm the land and stuff, pay your taxes to the crown and stuff. And here's 5 muskets for you and your family. And you're like, whoa, 5 muskets? Why do I need 5 muskets? Oh, we didn't tell you till you got over here, but this land that you're on, it's at the border of Indian War. Yeah, you see, the Spanish are down there with Black Indians in Florida. And, you know, we're up here in the Carolinas, so we want you to be in this buffer zone of Georgia to be pawns on the front lines. And on Sundays, you got to report to the local militia. They're using them as cannon fodder, literally. A lot of them came over here as slaves. Straight up slaves. I mean, if anybody needs primary sources, and this is stuff that I break down during the one-on-one genealogy consultations that I provide through my website, but check it out. Exhibit A. Hold on. This first book is called They Were White and They Were Slaves, The Untold History of the Enslavement of Whites in Early America. Most white Americans are insecure about how they got over here. They did not come over here as pilgrims and noble people. They came as slaves of noble people. Look it up. Here's another primary source. It's called White Cargo, the forgotten story of thousands of white Britons who lived and died in bondage in Britain's American colonies. In the 17th and 18th centuries, more than 300,000 white people were shipped to America as slaves. It says urchins. What's an urchin? An urchin is like a poor homeless kid in Europe. Urchins were swept up from London streets to labor in tobacco fields where life expectancy was no more than 2 years. Brothels, aka hoe houses, were raided to provide breeders for Virginia. So the next time you come across a barbecue Becky that thinks her grandma came through the Mayflower, no, she was a whore in Europe that got kidnapped and sent to Virginia to be a breeder. You see why they're insecure about their history? You see why so many white folks be getting online telling us, no, dude, you guys were the slaves. We were indentured servants. Let's keep reading. It says hopeful migrants were duped into signing as indentured servants, unaware they would become personal property who could be bought, sold, and even gambled away. Transported convicts were paraded for sale like livestock. Guess what, guys? I have German lineage. My German ancestor was shipped here as a slave. That's what genealogy can reveal. I got the document. I got the paperwork. Hey, I ain't find no African slave in my family tree, but I found a German slave. Funny how that shit work, huh? Funny how that works. Watch. We'll go to Ancestry.com real quick. I'm a full-time genealogist. I do family trees for so many people, so I got to skim through here and try to find my family tree. Lord knows I be doing so many family trees for people. Hold on. Here we go. Lane family tree. Check this out. This is going to blow your mind. This is my ancestor, Franz Christian Hutman. Franz Christian Hutman. Okay? Let's read a little bit about Franz. Check this out. Let me see. Where's the shortcut to his profile? Hold up, y'all. Hold up. Where's the shortcut? Good old Franz. This is going to blow your mind. Here we go. He was born 1757 in Menger in Hoschen, Waldeck, Frankenberg, Hesse, Germany. There's a book written about this line of my family. Here's an excerpt from that book. This is how you do genealogy. Some of y'all got some European slaves on your family tree. You don't even know it. So check it out. This is a brief historical sketch of Christian Hootman and his son Jacob Hootman and their descendants. It says Christian Hootman, the founder of the Hootman family in America, was born 1757 in the Principality of Hessen-Kassel, Gremmen Empire. At that point in time, Germany wasn't even called Germany. It was called the Gremmen Empire. He was a fine drummer boy, and when about 16, was kidnapped by the Prince of Hesse and sold to King George III of England to the end and for the purpose of fighting the colonists of America who were at war with the mother country, striving for their independence. His father was a wealthy man and could have procured the young man's release, but for a difference between them, he was taken in charge by officers, and upon his refusal to join the troops, he was given 30 lashes for 3 consecutive days, after which he consented to obey the commands of his superiors. Nevertheless, before embarking with the soldiers, he said to his father, quote, "You force me to take the lashes, I'll go. But I will never fire a gun against the Americans, and I will never return to the fatherland." And he never did. On the morning of December 25th, 1776, he was struck by a gun cartridge and was suffered, or excuse me, not a cartridge. He was struck by a gun carriage and suffered a fracture of one leg. During the early morning, General Washington and his Continentals had crossed the Delaware and surprised Rowell's camp, capturing the entire band. Christian Hoopman was one of those taken by the Americans, but they treated him so well that after 3 months, he had so far recovered that he re-enlisted, but not with the British, but with a Virginian regiment, and acted as drummer boy until the close of the war. He settled in Virginia and received from the state 800 acres of land. It was located on the headwaters of Buffalo Creek on what is now known as West Virginia, Washington County, Pennsylvania. Let's talk about it.
Wow.
30 lashes per day for 3. He getting beat like Toby. Sent basically as a slave, sent to be forced to fight in a war against the colonists in the American Revolution.
And
just like some slaves in the Southeast during the Civil War were forced to go to battle with their Confederate owner and act as a, I think they called them body slaves, because basically they would fetch them water and, do things for them on the battlefield.
Wow, that's insane. A lot of military records will show actually a lot of people's designation as well, because sometimes you'll see census, it'll be Black, but a lot of the military records, they would identify whether the Negro would be actively part of a tribe or not, because like I said, there were too many instances from what was passed down to me, too many instances of people still rebelling, still not doing and not 100% fully assimilating too. You know what I'm saying?
And real quick, QA over here on YouTube says, all races have enslaved all other races during the human lifetime. False. Not at all. African slavery was nowhere near as egregious as European chattel slavery. American Indian tribes taking prisoners of war was nothing compared to the European transatlantic slavery. The European slave trade was so crazy that even Europeans fought themselves over it because it was so barbaric. What are we talking about? Indigenous communities around the world would have skirmishes with each other, would take one another as prisoners of war, would even kill some of their enemies in a sacrificial format, such as in Mesoamerica, but they demonize that and make it seem like they was just like, sacrificing just random people. No, these are motherfuckers they just went to war with. That's what our U.S. government does to this day, right? They drone striking civilians and butchering a whole bunch of people in the name of democracy, right? But when we do it, oh, you Indians had slaves too, so how dare you talk about the Europeans have... No community in the world had any kind of massive global slavery system such as the one that the Europeans enacted. Ugh.
You're right. You're right. And then speaking with the Army too, it's like a lot. I would look back, a lot of my great grandfathers, a lot of them been into the military, but a lot of that still, and even still now, even with me, Veterans Day, whatever, it's more of gaining tactics, techniques, procedures, understanding SOPs, standard operating procedures, preparing, battling, because when and if that war comes, it's like there's a lot of people who people think they're African American, but they're not. They know they're not. They're going to let them call them African American, but then they're in uniform. But then if anything push comes to shove, they already know which side they'll be on. So in fact, there's a lot of them in there right now that could technically be imposters. and they're being trained by the people that that they may end up having to fight. If you know what I'm trying to hint at, you see what I'm saying? So
I feel you.
if something was to go down, and everything is going to be just fine. So a lot of people,
but at the same time, we got to watch out for that, because oftentimes, and first of all, we're definitely heading towards some kind of quasi civil war. And the only reason why I say that is because the Hegelian dialect says problem, solution, but these Jewish, Zionist, Kabbalistic people, they believe that they're right in the eyes of their God as long as they make it painfully obvious what they're doing. That's why before 9/11, there was a bunch of movies and TV shows about a plane hitting the World Trade Center. That's why The Simpsons predicts a whole bunch of weird shit. That's why they put it in the movies. That's why all the movies are about civil wars now. They literally came out with a movie not so long ago called Civil War. The news is talking about civil wars. They're going to be a civil war. They're going to be a class war, right? Guys, you got to watch out for this, because a lot of us will say, well, hey, if a civil war breaks out, the military is not really gonna go against their own civilians. Like, the actual soldiers aren't gonna like go to the streets of the US and go against civilians. You got to understand that's not the case. A lot of the people in the military nowadays are foreigners trying to get a green card. The last administration was not just opening the borders. They allowed these fucking migrants to become police officers and join the military, get a badge and a gun, and they don't even got citizenship. And they're putting them in control of citizens and policing and stuff. So you got to watch out for that. There's a lot of African migrants in the military right now who wouldn't mind rounding up the Akatas and putting them in a FEMA camp.
And Russians too, because even when I was in basic training, there were like some Russian females in there that kind of just stood out. But I mean, you're absolutely right. But then at the end of the day, it's like I believe that certain people will pick and choose. Now, it might get ugly for a little bit, especially with how Trump is sending, like, okay, they instead of sending the California Guard to California, they'll send like another state to that actual state. So I mean, I can see that happening. It could get ugly, but if shit really hits the fan, I'm hoping that some people would make the right choice. And you're absolutely right. Like, I'm hoping. So, but if not, then hey, they already picked their side. And so, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, but also we have to learn and realize, first of all, we're gonna be all right. We done survived so many wars, French and Indian Wars, 7-year wars, Revolutionary Wars, Civil War, War of 18. We fought in every armed conflict in this soil since the beginning of time. Every major U.S., everything we've been a part of, and we've survived. Vietnam, you name it. But you got to realize this. This is an opportunity for us. This is a grand opportunity. When the United States government is fighting too many wars on too many fronts, it's easier for us to enact change. What was happening during the Civil Rights Movement? What war was happening during the Civil Rights Movement? World War II. They're preoccupied with World War II. Black Americans are pushing for legislation. We're able to get some things passed. Of course, it was a psyops. Of course, they led us into a burning house. But what I'm trying to get into is, my goal at least, is to start a national organization that can lobby Congress for a congressional hearing on the racial reclassification of Native Black Americans. Well, it's a lot easier to fly under the radar and galvanize the community and spread the word and get the mission out there while Uncle Sam's distracted with a war against China and Taiwan and going back to the Middle East and protecting Israel and protecting the border and hiding the Jeffrey Epstein list, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got to use times of turmoil and conflict to our advantage. It's just like economics. There's a saying, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful.
I like that.
When everybody's running around like everything's good, the market's up, that's when you be fearful. Shit about to crash. There's just something's going on here. But when everybody's being fearful and the market crashes and stuff, that's when everything's half off. If you're ready for it, that's when general wealth is created. So when shit hits the fan and another white boy shoots up a school here and another right-wing white supremacist gets assassinated like Charlie Kirk. Our name is Bennett. We ain't in it. We need to do some research. We need to know tactics, the difference between cover and concealment. We need to get concealed carry permits and buy arms legally if you're able to and stuff. But come on. Let's talk about it. Oh, and it's so cute. I just got a notification from TikTok that my live is being restricted from recommendations because I am promoting misinformation that may cause moderate harm. Meanwhile, the white boys can sit up on TikTok all day running drills and game theories about civil wars and talking about starting little militias and shit. The first thing we talk about getting our community sharpened up, TikTok says, wait a minute, you might be promoting harm.
And you got receipts too. Documentation, pictures, everything, testimonials. So I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Hey, it is what it is, what it's gonna be. But hey, brother, go ahead and leave us with some closing remarks. And I got our resident Moore backstage on TikTok still. More L. We'll see what he has to say. And then we'll see if we have any more live callers or if we're gonna wrap up. And shout out to Coleman. Coleman says, my dad always said, prepare for war in times of peace. Exactly.
I like that. Yeah, one of my closing remarks is, I've been actually studying the different censuses since you put me on doing my genealogy and everything. And then I've been studying the different amounts, like, that white is 49% and African, then the black would be like 15 or 14. But then those numbers, they can never be right. No census can ever be right. I remember one of my grandmothers used to say that when the enumerators would come around the house, they would actually hide their kids because they just didn't trust them. And so now I personally know Black people who have family members who are on their census that they check their brothers and sisters listed as white, but they have both Black family members. You know what I'm saying? I know people that are identifying as white that we both know are definitely not white, and they're swarthy just like me, or even a little lighter, and they're identifying as white as well. So it's like, I'm curious, I'm still trying to figure out, like, that number is completely off, but I'm wondering, like, how can a group of people that's only 10% of the world's population be almost 45% of the population of this country? It's just amazing, and something's not adding up. That's about it. But Mike TV, keep doing your thing, man. I appreciate you enlightening us, doing us, and putting us all in the right direction, man. Keep doing your thing.
And wait, hold on. When you were talking about I was enlightening you with the genealogy, are you just talking about by watching my content, or did we have a consultation together?
By watching your content, but
Okay, cool. No, hey, I meet with so many people. We could have had a consultation, a few months ago, and I just forgot about it. That's why I was like, hold up.
I'm hitting roadblocks, man, and you're a lot faster than I am. So, and it's time consuming. So, I definitely will be reaching out though.
Yeah, most definitely. I look forward to connecting with you, and thanks for sharing those family receipts. I'm definitely gonna add those to the digital archive and use that as a case study in a lot of my presentations.
Yes, sir. Thanks. Have a good one, man. Be blessed.
Take it easy, brother. Peace. All right, we're gonna bring up our resident Moore in just a second. Over on TikTok, Katie Anderson says, my grandma says those census folks couldn't spell. That was on purpose. They could spell, but they purposefully misspelled our ancestor's name. This is the process known as paper genocide. Check this out. In my research, I discovered an article from 1970. It took me 6 hours straight searching through newspaper archives. It cost me hundreds of dollars paying for archival memberships to find this newspaper article entitled, When is an Indian not an Indian? It's when he's a Negro. And I'm just going to give you one little excerpt from this. This is from a census taker. Who is an Indian? When the United States government counts heads, it says we are whatever we say we are. A census taker now working in South Kingstown in preparation for the 1970 census said recently, quote, if they tell me they are Indian and they look Negro, I put down what they say and change it later. Aren't Indians supposed to have high cheekbones? We literally have a census taker admitting to racially reclassifying Indigenous people. We have a census taker admitting that they're going off of lookership instead of genealogy. Guys, in the 1970s, we had all these cowboy and Indian TV shows and movies where they had fucking Asians and Italian actors playing Native Americans. There was a huge psyops with Walt Disney and all the media figures to promote this Asiatic Bering Strait phenotype as what it means to be a Native American. So when the census taker says they look Negro, what the fuck does a Negro look like? What does a Negro look like? What is a Negro? Oh, someone who's melanated with thick lips. Okay. All right. I got it. Next caller is, let me see who's backstage. We're going to bring up More L82. Then we're going to bring up Flight Chief. And if nobody else is going to call in, then those will be our last two callers. More L, where are you calling in from?
Hello?
Or L, where are you calling it in from?
Calling it from Cali, California.
All right. You wouldn't happen to be a descendant of African migrants, would you?
Not at all.
Okay, but you identify as a
What's
Moor,
an
right?
What do you consider an African migrant? And what does Africa mean to you and your definition?
Okay, time out. If you're gonna ask me a question, ask me one question at a time. Your first question was, what do I consider an African migrant? Words matter. I go by the definition of words. A migrant is someone who migrates from one land to another land. An African is someone from the continent of Africa. So an African migrant is kind of self-explanatory. But real quick, what was your, actually, before we even get to your second question, I've got a question for you since I answered your first question. In my chat, you said something about we've got it in reverse. Can you unmute yourself and let us know what we have in reverse?
The whole slave story, matrix thinking. And for one, Africa means land without codes. So if land without code could be an
Okay. You're saying a lot. You have to be short. You have to be concise. You just rattled something about we've got a slave story matrix thing in reverse. And now you're talking about Africa being, sir, these are the rules of engagement. When I mute you, it's because I'm interjecting. You stay on mute until I'm done. You'll know when I'm done because I'll say, you can unmute yourself now. So let me just get everybody caught up. I said, hey, in the comment section, you said we had something in reverse. What do we have in reverse? You said the slave story matrix thing. What slave story matrix thing are you talking about? And then we can get on. Did I not just tell you not to fucking unmute yourself and interrupt me, boy? Did I not just say stay on mute until I tell you it's your turn to speak? If you can't follow directions, you can kick rocks. It's 1 a.m. I don't need to speak to you. You're calling in to talk to me. Have some decorum. Stay on mute or leave. Jesus. So first he's saying the slave story matrix thing. I want to have him elaborate on that, and then we'll go to his claims of Africa meaning a place without codes. So sir, unmute yourself and let us know what slave story matrix thing you're referring to.
Right. For a lot of this. Well, you explained a lot of that right after I typed it, because you went into, of course, some of the white gold stuff. But if you study the Bounty Act, where you get the title sheriff and marshal, the Bounty Act of 1721, it actually started in 1714 with Queen Anne.
Slow down. I'm not even going to mute you. I just want you to slow down. You just said a Bounty Act of 17 what?
1714, Queen Anne's Bounty Act of 1714.
Okay, so Queen Anne's Bounty Act of 1714. I get it. And you're referring to Queen Anne's War.
Right.
Okay.
This is where you see these people.
Time out. I'm still trying to understand why you said the phrase slave story matrix thing. What is a slave story matrix?
I said matrix thinking.
What does matrix thinking mean?
The roots idea that Africans came here as slaves is completely false.
So Africans didn't come here as slaves?
No, it was European nobles being dispatched through the Cape of Africa. Time
out. Just stay on mute for just a second. I've never heard somebody claim that Africans did not come over here as slaves. It's well documented that Africans sold other Africans to Europeans for trinkets and shipped them to the Americas as slaves. Most of them went to South America, Brazil. Second largest destination was the Caribbean. But are you promoting that the transatlantic slave trade is a hoax, that it didn't exist? Go ahead, unmute yourself.
Well, you just proved my first theory of you still being in that thought matrix.
You
Yeah,
haven't even helped us understand what matrix you're talking about. So don't say that I helped you prove a theory about being in a matrix when you still haven't even told us what matrix you're referring to, sir. I'm confused. Can you make this more simple?
the idea of African slaves. I'm gonna do this one more time with you, so I don't really don't have the time either. But the theory of African slaves coming from Africa in the 15 and 1600s, and those 30 odd some odd Negroes found in 1619, which didn't confirm they were Africans. They were really most likely pearl divers lost at sea, if you really get into those 30 odd Negroes.
So African slaves being shipped to Virginia weren't really African slaves. They were pearl divers lost at sea. And Africans never got trafficked as slaves over here. It was European noble bloodlines. And I'm talking about a slave story matrix way of thinking. Sir, this sounds like a whole bunch of pseudo shit.
No.
This is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do. You, for some reason, do not know how to stay on mute when I mute you. I keep having to mute you. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna let my audience have the luxury of choice. Guys, put a 0 in the chat. If you, oh, he already fled. Okay, cool. Thank God. I was gonna have you guys vote to see if he gets a timer and speaks 2 minutes uninterrupted. I really didn't want to hear what the fuck he had to say. This the motherfucker in my chat claiming to be a Moor, guys. These are the pseudo low IQ high school dropouts in our community claiming we got to overstand, understand Black Law's dictionary, maritime law, matrix, slave codes. Africa just means land without treaties, and African slaves never came here. They were pearl divers. What the fuck did he just say? Sir, you aren't qualified to have this discussion. Nigga probably ain't even done his genealogy talking like that. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. I don't even want to speak on him anymore because I feel like I'm punching down. I mean, that's just Jesus. You just embarrassed the fuck out of yourself. I hope you know that. Let me see what you guys are talking about. Y'all said, yeah, if he would have stayed for 2 minutes for the 2-minute timer, it would have made a good laugh. Yeah. Yeah. White says, yeah, he was talking some wildness. Yeah. I mean, come on. He said he opened up saying that I've got it in reverse. I say, what do I have in reverse? He says the slave story matrix thing. I'm like, what slave story matrix thing? And then he just tried to get us to go into the matrix with him. Nigga, we're not going down your pseudo rabbit hole to see how far it goes. Y'all cracking up, y'all. Y'all cracking up. He don't have the time. Yeah, he don't have the time, but he waited backstage for like 15 minutes to speak to me about his pseudo Moorish bullshit. Y'all saying he's a goofy. Y'all cracking up at him. Yeah. Sugar says he didn't even say anything. He said so much back to back in the chat, though. Exactly. These motherfuckers say a bunch of pseudo shit in the chat. And then when we let them call in, we hear them just babble nonsensical rhetoric. I mean, hey guys, can I get some fists or feathers if I've made way more fucking sense up here all 2 hours straight that I've been live freestyling off the top of my head, breaking down the Freedmen classification, Sarah Rector, racial reclassification, had a brother come up, we showing census records and registrar documents and Freedmen rolls, and damn. It's like y'all just saw Michael Jordan and then y'all saw a 600-pound man at the YMCA attempt to dribble a basketball. Like that's the disparity in talent that you just witnessed as far as scholarship. I mean, what kind of pseudo shit did we just listen to? Black Mamba says, I was so confused. He's confused too. This is that African identity crisis I speak of. He said he doesn't descend from African migrants. Then he asked me, what's an African migrant? Motherfucker, you don't know what an African migrant is? And then he was also in the chat saying Moors don't come from Africa. Then where do they come from? Asia? Do they come from Japan? Do they come from Greece? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Coleman says he's making up a so-called matrix community of African community in the 1700s. That's crazy as hell. Yeah, I've never heard somebody claim that Africans were never shipped as slaves to America and that they were pearl divers. You learn something new every day, I guess. All right. Tukwa says, I need lion's mane mushroom tea now. Hey, I need a joint. I need to pack a cone. HED mom says, lost soul. Yeah. Yeah. Y'all saying he was pivoting. Yeah. Lewis says, I just need to figure out how to get past 1870 on my Ancestry. Hey, go to the website, book a consultation. I'd be happy to help you. Hey, Lewis, Gold Live, I got to ask you this. If I've dropped so many gems like this off the top of my head, freestyling on the live stream, chatting with you all, imagine what kind of information I would help you reveal during a one-on-one genealogy consultation. Just imagine. Just imagine. Tuqual says, appreciate you. I'm going to cash app you once I get paid. Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Instead of cash apping me, I want you to get something tangible for your money to become a member of the website. It's $15. I would advise you to become a member of the website. And if you become a member of the website, then you can actually have access to my digital archive where I've got a bunch of documents, family photos, newspaper clippings, book excerpts, Black Indian obituaries. The list goes on and on and on. Earlier, we were covering some of the Indian slave ads. I've even got ex-Indigenous slave interviews. I mean, y'all, if you want to read firsthand accounts of Indigenous people captured as slaves and reclassified, hey, $15, access to a whole archive. Check this out. Spence Johnson. I'm gonna just give you a little taste. Spence Johnson. Spence Johnson was born free, a member of the Choctaw Nation in the Indian Territory in the 1850s. He does not know his exact age. He and his mother were stolen and sold at auction in Shreveport to Riley Surratt, who lived near Shreveport on the Texas-Louisiana line. He has lived in Waco since 1874. If you want to read the first-hand account from Spence Johnson, it's in the archive. I'll even read the first passage for you just to show you how crazy this shit is. Indigenous tribes were enslaved in place even until the 1850s. Now, he does use the N-word with a hard R, and you know, community guidelines. So instead of saying the N-word with the hard R, I'm going to substitute it for grr. If you guys hear me say grr, you know I'm trying to say the N-word with the hard R without saying the N-word with the hard R. It says, the grr stealers done stole me and my mammy out the Choctaw Nation up in the Indian Territory when I was about 3 years old. Brother Knox, Sis Hannah, and my mammy and her 2 stepchillin was down on the river washing. The grr stealers drive up in a big carriage, and mammy just thought nothing, cause the fort was near there, and people on the road was stopping to get water for the horses and rest a while in the shade. By and by, a man coaxes the 2 biggest children in the carriage and give them some kind of candy. Other children see this and goes too. The 2 other men was walking around smoking and getting closer to mammy all the time. When he can, the man in the carriage got the 2 big stepchildren in with him, and me and sis climbed in too to see how come. Then the man holler, get the old one and let's get from here. With that, the 2 big men grabbed mommy, and she fought and screeched and bit and cried, but they hit her in the head with something and drug her in and thrown her on the floor. The big chillin began fighting for mammy, but one of the men hit him hard, and off they drive with the horses under whip. This was near a place called Baggy Depot. They went down the Red River, crossed the Red River, and down in Louisiana to Shreveport. Black Indian families stolen at the river washing clothes. The kids lulled to the carriage with candy. They hit mama, throw her in. The man being interviewed right here was 3 years old at that time. And imagine how long he was enslaved in the Southeast. And motherfuckers nowadays want to act like this is an African when he was born in the Indian Territory, stolen from the Choctaw Territory. You can't make this up. You see why you call me the king of receipts? And this isn't the only indigenous slave interview I have. I've got several. Let's talk about it. The king of receipts. I'll give you another taste. This is Ellen Cragen. I was born on the 10th of March in some year. I don't know what one. I don't know whether it was in the Civil War or before the Civil War. I forget it. I think that I was born in Vicksburg, Mississippi. I'm not sure, but I think I was. My mother was a great shouter. One night before I was born, she was at a meeting and she said, "Well, I have to go in. I feel something." She said I was walking about in there. And when she went in, I was born that night. My mother was a great Christian woman. She raised us right. We had to be in at sundown. If you didn't bring it in at sundown, she'd whip you within an inch of your life. She didn't work in the field. She worked at a loom. She worked so long and so often that once she went to sleep at the loom. Her master's boy saw her and told his mother. His mother told him to take a whip and wear her out. He took a stick and went out to beat her awake. He beat my mother till she woke up. When she woke up, she took a pole out the loom and beat him nearly to death with it. He hollered, "Don't beat me no more, and I won't let him whip you." She said, "I'm gonna kill you. These black titties sucked you, and then you gonna come out here and beat me?" And when she left him, he wasn't able to walk. Hey, let's talk about it. King of Receipt strikes again. Let's keep reading. And that was the last I seen of her until after freedom. She went out and got on an old cow that she used to milk. Dolly, she called it. She rode away from the plantation because she knew they would kill her if she stayed. My mother was named Lavinia Polk. She got plumb away and stayed away. On account of that, I was raised by my mother. She went to Atchison, Kansas, rode all through them woods on that cow, tore her clothes all off on them bushes. Once a man stopped her and she said, "My folks gone to Kansas and I don't know how to find them." He told her just how to go. Now check it out, guys. Check it out. Next passage. My father was an Indian. I repeat, my father was an Indian. Way back in the dark days, his mother ran away. And when she came up, that's what she came up with, a little Indian boy. They called him Wahuchi. His master's name was Tom Polk. Tom Polk was my mother master too. It was Tom Polk's boy that my mother beat up. My father wouldn't let nobody beat him either. One time, when something he did didn't suit Tom Polk, I don't know what it was, they cut sores on him that he died with. Cut him with a rawhide whip, you know, and then they took salt and rubbed it into the sores. He told his master, "You have took me down and beat me for nothing. And when you do it again, I'm going to put you in the ground." Papa never slept in the house again after that. They got scared, and he was scared of them, so he used to sleep in the woods. They used to call him Wahuchi and red-headed Indian brat. I got in a fight once with my mistress's daughter on account of that. The children used to say to me, "They beat your papa yesterday." And I would say to them, "They better not beat my papa." And they would go up to the house and tell it. And I would beat them for telling it. Damn. Am I not showing you definitive evidence that Black indigenous people were kidnapped and enslaved in place? Am I not showing you a case study on how nuanced slavery is? Our ancestors weren't no meek, servile people, just getting whipped and taking it lying down. No. Mama whipped Massa's son, fled on a cow. Daddy said, "Next time you whip me, I'm going to put you in the ground." So now we got to live in the woods. And even the son is beating up Massa's children. Hey, we always stood on business. Of course, we can only do so much. try to do too much, and now the militia comes in and they hanging you up from a tree and stuff. But as you can see, slavery is way more nuanced than you could have ever imagined. Now, let me see if we have any more live callers before we wrap up this broadcast. I know we had someone backstage earlier. Are they still backstage? Yeah, Flight Chief. Flight Chief, let us know where you calling in from and what's on your mind. And y'all, make sure to check out nativeblackancestry.com. I'm telling you, this digital archive is a treasure trove. It's only $15 to become a member of the website. Best $15 you ever gonna spend. But Flight Chief, go ahead. Let us know what's on your mind and where you calling in from. Flight Chief going once. Flight Chief going twice. All right. Flight Chief was just waiting backstage to come up here and say absolutely nothing. Now let me get caught up with the chat. The TikTok chat been moving so fast. Let me see. Producer says, I'm at your website now on the landing page. Nice. Make sure to put in your email when that pop-up shows up for the ebook. For everybody that visits my website, there's going to be a pop-up that shows up after you've been on the website for like 30 seconds or so. And if you put in your email, you can get a free copy of my ebook, Reclassified, The Hidden History of Black Indians in the Southeast from Indian to Negro. And that ebook is jam-packed with a lot of historical references as well. But let me see what you guys are talking about. Y'all saying, wow. Lewis says, I found a manifest with the big tribune owned by Franklin and Armfield, my 3 times great-grandfather. Nice. Sugar and Sovereign says, my goodness. Producer Fam Nice says, that's horrible. Facts. Tukwa says, common story. My great-great-grandmother got stolen, but my great-grandfather got her back. That's what's up. Black Mamba says, definitely the king of receipts. I appreciate it. Yo Swifty says, damn, hold on. Damn, the chat just moved on me, y'all. Yo Swifty says, now I see why grandma and granddad slept with a rifle under the bed. Damn, yeah. That's also why we keep our money under the mattress, because of the Freedmen's Bank that defrauded our ancestors out of $1 to $2 trillion in generational wealth. Producer Fam Nice says, that's common for a lot of us. No exact birth date and age. Yeah. And guys, that's why they outlawed the slaves reading and writing, because if they can read and write, they can read the text and the census and know they're indigenous. Master said you come from Africa somewhere, but when I'm able to read, I can source documentation and learn, wait a minute. Nah, I was raised on this plantation since I was 3. This is all I know. But I was taken after a local Indian war and separated from my tribe. You see why they didn't want us reading and writing? They put all the shit in books. That's why it's so easy for me to show you the receipts. They put everything in text and literature. Why? Because they never thought we would even be able to read this shit one day. So, you know, they really never thought that we would not only be able to read, but that we would also have artificial intelligence and be able to use it to source documentation from centuries ago. Everything's at the snap of our fingers. And if you use the tool correctly, you can get the results that you're looking for. Saturn says, I know that's right, mama, for real. She said, these black titties suckled you and you gonna beat me? J Bone says, what book is that, brother? That's not a book. Through my own research, I've come across these interviews. I've downloaded them to my digital archive on the website. That's not a book, but I am working on a book where I'm going to compile indigenous ex-slave interviews. Upper Echelon Native says, yeah, now these are the stories we need to read. Our ancestors weren't docile. Facts. And I just read like 2. There's a few more on the website there. Let me see. Last Soldier says, these people are evil as fuck. Yeah, facts. HED Mom says, damn shame. Black Mamba says, we've been fighters. Absolutely. That's right. Shout out to the ancestors. All praises to the Most High. Yep. Black Mamba says the website's definitely the best. Hey, I'm glad you think so. It's a labor of love. Upper Echelon Native says that's why they stopped teaching writing and resting in cursive too. All records are in cursive. Exactly. Guys, I'm a genealogist. I find so many of these records that I can't read because it's like this old cursive and shit. And I actually created an AI program that I uploaded to so it translates it. That's how you got to use AI as a tool. It's not a source, it's a tool. When y'all come across some of these old documents, these Freedmen documents, these Freedmen's Bureau land contracts and stuff, and you can't read it because it's in some cursive chicken scratch, upload that to ChatGPT and say, translate this. Let's talk about it. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're going to wrap up this broadcast. I'm going to play some music, pack a cone, and allow anybody who wants to call in with a buzzer beater. If anybody wants to call in before we wrap up this broadcast, now is the last call. But I'm going to listen to some music while I pack this cone. And guys, as always, I want to end this broadcast the same way I end most broadcasts. Let me know, how long have you been watching? Half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours? Let me know, did you learn something new? If so, what did you learn that was new? And if you think that there was a sensational moment, let me know what sensational or noteworthy moment you experienced tonight. Whether it was the brother calling in who sent me documents of his ancestor listed as a Negro Indian. Maybe it can be the Moorish pseudo dude that called in on some dumb shit. I mean, hey. Former Bloodline says, you a legend, fam. 10 minutes. Cool. Oh, also, anybody who's watching this on TikTok, you can actually go to my YouTube channel, Mike TV, and all of these live stream replays are on YouTube. Just type in Mike TV. I pop right up. I've got like 36,000 subscribers. It's this logo, white, black, and yellow. We're live right now, and you can watch a treasure trove. Guys, I've got an archive of videos on YouTube. I've got 847 videos on YouTube. Just waiting for you to binge. You truckers, hey, this is going to help you pass the time. Y'all be grinding at work, got the AirPods in, learn some of this indigenous knowledge while you're working at the 9 to 5. 847 videos. So if y'all tuning into the live stream and you like, damn, he dropping gems, I missed some of the stream, I want to catch up, go to YouTube, Mike TV. You can watch all the content. You see what y'all talking about. Black Mamba says 2 hours and always learn something new. Appreciate that. Yo Swifty says an hour. I screenshotted dozens of pictures, but wish they were larger. Hey, all you got to do is go to the website, drop the $15, become a member, and you can go to the digital archive and download all those documents I was showing. You can download them straight to your phone, straight to your computer. There's a share button. You can share them on social media and make it accessible. Coleman says, thanks, Mike. I enjoyed the discussion with you and the panel members. Nice. It wasn't too much of a smoke show tonight. A lot of the trolls were staying in the chat. They were afraid. HED Mom says, good night. I was first in this time. Thank you, Mike. I've learned so much watching here and on YouTube. Hey, nice. I appreciate it. That is what I'm here for. Now, let me see what I feel like listening to while I pack this cone. Lord knows I need a smoke break, y'all. Lord knows I need a smoke break. Oh, we got somebody coming in with the buzzer beater. Mars, let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
Yo, what's good, Mike? Man, we talked before. I'm calling in from Nevada, Southern Nevada.
Oh, yeah, I remember you. What's on your mind?
Tonight?
I was going pretty good.
What's on my nothing, just trying to find some more information. Sometimes I'll be hitting them brick walls, and why do we have a lot of our like my grandmother? It's a lot of them with the same last name. Like for instance, one of them his last name was Holloway, and it's like a lot of different Holloways, and I'm like, dang. But it was funny thing with her. They
well,
say
hold on.
they transport. Oh, sorry, my bad.
What territory are those ancestors that are Holloways in?
She was from Alabama. Then she eventually moved to Texas, to East Texas.
Interesting.
But then I seen one. She was born in 1835, but they transported her to Rio de Janeiro, which is Brazil. So when people think we got transported from Africa, no, that was just them getting transported around that area and all that.
So did you find any evidence that those Holloway? Hold on, did you find?
Hold on,
time out. I think it's a little bit of a delay. Did you see any evidence of those Holloway ancestors being enslaved?
I think she was enslaved. Yeah, she was a prisoner of war, but then she ended up being free. And then I have another one on my other side. They went around the same year, but that's on my father's side. She was a free person of color. That was she was born in 18.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a rich legacy there.
And so I figured that was probably why we hit a brick wall.
I got you. And I'm gonna mute you real quick because there's a delay and a lot of background noise. But yeah, there's definitely a rich legacy there. The Holloways, especially in Alabama, I mean, that surname has deep roots. I mean, it's connected both to plantation owners and enslaved Native Black American families who carried the name after emancipation or manumission. So the Holloway surname actually appears throughout central and southern Alabama in 19th century records, especially in counties like Heavy Creek, Choctaw, and Chickasaw County. And it's really a significant surname in both the indigenous and the quote unquote African American paradigm, right? If we were to break this down further, of course it has European origin. You know, the surname Holloway is English. It literally means one who lived by a hollow way or a sunken road. Many of the Holloways in colonial America actually arrived through Virginia, the Carolinas, and Georgia in the 16 and the 1700s before spreading into Alabama during the early 1800s, you know, around Indian removal. Again, the movement of the Holloways westward aligns with Indian removal and the cotton expansion, which means they often settled on or near former Creek and Choctaw territories. So your ancestors were most likely either Creek or Choctaw. When we talk about the plantation era during the 1820s and the 1860s, you know, you got multiple white Holloway families in Alabama that are appearing on slave schedules, tax records, census records. You've got notable Holloway slaveholders like John Holloway. He's listed with 15 enslaved people in Dallas County, Alabama in 1850. You've got William Holloway in Lowndes County, listed with 9 enslaved people in 1860. James Holloway, Marengo County, 5 enslaved people. Thomas Holloway, Wilcox County, 8 enslaved people. Mary Holloway, Entwega County, 3 enslaved people. And she was actually a widowed estate holder. Oftentimes, widows or women whose fathers had slaves, they'll inherit slaves.
That's funny you said that. That was her name, Mary Holloway.
Ah, see, we're getting somewhere.
And on her census record, it said Negro, then they transferred over to mulatto, and then there's another record that has the same exact name, but then it says white. So then I got confused. Then another one I'm stuck on is Reed, Henry Reed, and Nancy Reed. Then I found out Henry Reed's son was General Reed, and he was a Choctaw Freedmen general of the Choctaws. So I was like, whoa, I didn't know that. So
yeah, and all those counties I just listed fall within the Black Belt region. You know, that's the fertile soil where the Creek, the Choctaw, and the Alabama tribes were before the Indian removal. So, you know, these Holloway families actually acquired land through federal land patents issued after the 1830s Indian Removal Act. But yeah, you know, if I'm able to drop some gems like that willy-nilly, again, I say, imagine what kind of gems I'll drop on you during a one-on-one personalized genealogy consultation. Let's talk about it. But go ahead, brother. You have the floor.
Yeah, man. Thank you for that, because I'm really stuck on those two surnames. Like, I can't get past they found name, their father, their mother and father. So like Henry Reed, I can't find his. Nancy Reed, I know that's not her last name, but that was his. And then you got Mary Holloway, married to what's his my grandfather's name was Alfred Arnold Atkins, married to Mary Holloway. Yeah, so
exactly.
That line, I know that Atkins was Creeks too, so I'm like, oh
yeah.
And I just keep hitting these brick walls.
Right, brother. If you're hitting brick walls, you already know what to do. Check out the website.
Yeah, and everybody needs to go on that website before you do the consultation too, and get that free ebook, man. I got one too. It's pretty dope.
I appreciate that. Honestly, I made the ebook a few months back, and I do so much research. I low-key, high-key forgot what I even have in that book. I mean, I know I dropped some gems. I know it was thorough, but like I'll have to go through and like read it myself. And when I read it, it'll be like reading it for the first time because like you guys have no idea how much information I have to constantly filter and absorb on a daily basis. Like it's ridiculous. And then how many people call in and talk to me? I mean, it's a lot to process. Matter of fact, that's why I'll do it right now. Matter of fact, I'll do it live. Hold on. Let me pull up that ebook. I swear to God, I do not remember what's in that ebook. I do not remember at all. I created the ebook like 4 months ago, I think. I've got a copy of it saved on my Google Drive, though. Hold on a second. I'm going to bring this up with you guys so you guys can also have a little sneak peek. But
Mike, you're going to be surprised what you put in there. It's a lot of good information you put in there. It's long. I didn't get to finish all of it, but it's a lot. I skimmed through it good. It's a lot in there.
Y'all don't understand. I have to process so much information. I do so many live broadcasts. I'll be having a smoke, having a break, and on my breaks, sometimes I'll watch my own shows because I don't even remember what I say up here. Like, this is all freestyle off the top of my... I'd be watching my own replays and watching the shit like it's for the first time, and I'm like, oh, damn, I was going off on it. Like, oh, damn, I was cooking there. Like, you don't understand? It's crazy, y'all. It's crazy. I process so much information on the daily. But let me see about this ebook. Yeah, here we go. Let's take a look at this together, guys. I'm about to read through this like I'm not the one who wrote it. Like, bro, let me see. Reclassified, the hidden history of Black Indians in the Southeast from Indian to Negro. How do I open? Oh, I open it up with the El Negro Olmec head statue. Okay. We open it up strong, Mike. All right. And actually, I want to be able to zoom in on this. Is it going to let me zoom? I don't see a zoom option. Let me open it in Google Docs. Maybe that'll help. Oh, no, here's a zoom. Here we go. So we open it up strong with the Olmec El Negro statue looking like Wesley Snipes with the M-shaped hairline, prominent in our community. For centuries, the true origins of many Black Americans have been buried under colonial deception, systematic erasure, and weaponized reclassification. This book uncovers a story that was never meant to be told, a story of nations dismantled not just through warfare, but through paperwork, policy, and pedagogy. What if your ancestors weren't African slaves, but Indigenous Americans renamed and enslaved on their own land? We journey through key truths that expose how the Southeastern tribes, especially the darker-skinned nations, were renamed, reclassified, and removed from the historical record. But this isn't just a history book, it's a tool of liberation. The truth they saw and then erased. Cinnamon-skinned natives in 1492. Christopher Columbus describes the indigenous people of the Caribbean as having cinnamon-colored skin and features resembling Ethiopians. He never once stated that they were African. His comparisons shocked European audiences because they contradicted their assumption that Indians were light-skinned and Asiatic. This early testimony is crucial. It proves that Blackness was native to the Americas before African slave ships ever arrived. And then we've got this image of a West Indian scene by Agostino Brunius from 1795. Cabeza de Vaca saw free dark natives. Shipwrecked in 1528, Spanish explorer Cabeza de Vaca lived amongst tribes along the Gulf Coast. His journal detailed encounters with dark-skinned native peoples who lived in complex societies, had their own languages, and were not enslaved. He never associated them with Africa. Instead, he honored their sovereignty. His writings challenged the dominant slave narrative by revealing a free, dark indigenous population in early America. And here's another artist rendition. Samuel Davies, 1758 testimony. A Presbyterian minister in Virginia, Reverend Davies noted that certain native congregants were dark, not from mixture with Negroes, but by nature. This single line provides key evidence that dark skin was indigenous to native communities. His statement also contradicts modern assumptions that all dark-skinned people in the South were of African origins. Spanish records called them negros indios. The Spanish used the term negro indio to classify Native Americans with dark skin. Not because they were African, but because their phenotype resembled Africans. These records, found in colonial era documents from Mexico, Florida, and the Caribbean, show a clear effort to racialize indigenous people based on appearance rather than culture or Ancestry. And then we just keep on going with the receipts and keep on going with the receipts and just keep on going with the receipts and just keep on going with the receipts. And we keep on going with the receipts. Hold on, we ain't gonna stop with the receipts. Oh Lord, oh Lord. How many pages was this? I don't even remember how many pages this was. We taking it all the way through.
Told you, Mike.
Oh damn, this is
Told you got a lot of information in there. And this is free, y'all. This is a free ebook.
Hey.
A free ebook with all that stuff to read.
Hey.
You can't beat that. Nobody else giving out these gems like that for free. Like when I seen them, I'm like, oh yeah. That's why every time I see you on Mike, you get on live, I gotta get on here. I gotta get on here. Cause he cool peoples. Just don't be talking that dumb stuff. No, you gotta come with some type of knowledge. And you gotta come with some type of knowledge. And I didn't get to hear that guy that you guys had on before. And if you say the Moors come from America, that don't make sense, bro. That's maybe if you talk about the MUURS, that's still was different.
He said some real dumb shit. First, he said Moors don't come from Africa. Then he said that Africans were never sent to America as slaves, that they were pearl divers that were shipwrecked.
What the hell is... Are you talking about the story when we jumped off and they didn't want to be in bondage?
No. Pearl divers.
That's a pearl diver?
Yeah, right.
That's a pearl diver. Like, you ain't finna take me over there. I'm good.
He was up here not making no damn sense. He said that Africa doesn't mean Africa. It means a land with no treaties.
That's not even what... Lord, he didn't even research that either.
Yeah.
Like, because I used to think, I was like, oh, we come, they said we was from Africa. So I dive into the Moors because they didn't want to talk about how the strong the Africans was with their kingdoms they had. So I dived into it, but I didn't feel it in my spirit. And then I started diving back into who I am of America. I was like, something ain't right. Why we always getting messed with over here so much? And everybody else is coming over here, taking our land. They got the Chinese community, Chinatown, Koreatown. Where's our town at?
The whole Americas is our town, and we've been occupied since 1492.
That's 100% correct. But you got these fools that don't want to believe that, and then we still can't even build a miniature community that we have. And then when we do, it's going to be, we actually have plenty of times, and they destroyed it. So I can't even say that.
They destroyed it. They flooded it. They make a dam. They turn it into a lake. They make a freeway that runs through it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Take our ideas, like the guy that invented the first electric car in 1898. Then they made the YT guy say, they gave him full credit, say, oh no, he just came up with some of the ideas and helped out. He didn't invent the technology. Yes, he did. Y'all don't invent nothing. The first woman to come create GPS was a melanated woman.
Shit, it's always been us. Hey, there was a black man called Charles Frederick Page. He was the first person to create a flying machine before the Wright brothers. But guess what? He went to ship his flying machine through the train to a fair to show it off, and it went missing. He was born, and he was born in slavery. He was born in slavery in 1864. He taught himself how to read, how to write. He worked as a timber contractor and a cabinet maker. And he designed a twin balloon airship lighter than an aircraft. He even got a patent for it. If you guys want to look up his patent, it's US 817442A. On April 24th, 1903, he got this patent for his design of a double balloon system with a rudder, a gas motor, etc. His patent was granted on April 10th, 1906, just ahead of the Wright brothers' patent on their airplane in May 22nd, 1906. He built a full-scale model, which was to be exhibited at the 1904 Louisiana Purchase Exposition, but the craft was reportedly stolen in transit and never recovered. It's important to note, though, his machine was an airship. It was lighter than air. It wasn't powered heavier than air, like the airplane that the Wright Flyer created. But either way, we've got a man born into slavery, teaches himself to read and write, becomes a cabinet maker, designs a flying machine, gets a patent on it a month before the Wright brothers. But in school, I remember vividly them teaching us about the Wright brothers, and they never taught us about Charles Frederick Page of Pineville.
And here's another thing that we did so amazing when they supposedly had us on this land, as they took our land and had us working for them, I guess. But anyways, they was picking cotton. They said, well, we ain't cleaning this cotton by hand. I'm about to make a cleaning machine for this. And then we invented that.
Yep.
The cotton cleaning
the cotton
machine.
gin, the all of it. Yeah, yeah. It's always been us.
You know, and it's ridiculous when I get on these other people's lives.
That's literally hold up. But that's literally what we do. We create processes and systems and refine them. Y'all do the same shit at work. Y'all will learn that there's some system at work, and you'll be like, why do these motherfuckers at work, my bosses who make more than me, why do they have this system that's not efficient? And we be giving the workplace suggestions and shit and fixing the system and not even getting promoted, not even getting a bonus or nothing. I mean, it's just in us to create processes and systems.
Facts. Like if you seen that movie Jumanji, remember when he created the tennis shoe? The little boy put that in the machine by accident. Yeah, like the first tennis shoe, like that's where it starts. You know, I've been diving this in since I was a little kid. So I know so much about us, and my dad been learning how to use YouTube. He born in 1949, so that's what connects me to the ancient ancestors.
That's what's up.
I ain't got to go back too far to get back to the 1800s and find out that we was free. Talking about free mulattoes and Negroes and stuff.
So somebody says Eli Whitney. Yeah, technically on paper they say Eli Whitney created the cotton gin, but come on, we know that so many of these European inventions, it's our indigenous inventions that they just take and patent. And come on. Hold on. I'm gonna do some quick digging. I'm gonna do some quick research and see if there's any evidence of indigenous Black person or a slave pioneering that before Eli Whitney. Hold on a second. Let me see. We do some quick research here on the fly. Doing some quick research on the fly. Okay, here we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay. All right, I got it. So no, Eli Whitney can take credit for the cotton gin. Well, we do have those. We have George Washington Carver. He was an American agricultural scientist. He developed crop rotation methods, soil improvement techniques, and alternative crops such as peanuts, sweet potatoes to move farms away from cotton monoculture because, you know, they were destroying the land and creating dust bowls and stuff because they kept over cultivating cotton instead of rotating the crops like indigenous tribes always did. You have the Coleman Manufacturing Company, founded in 1897 in North Carolina. This was a significant Black-owned textile manufacturing. This was directly tied to cotton processing and fabric, allowing indigenous Black Americans access to industrial roles in the cotton/textile chain. Okay. So yeah, we're definitely pioneers when it comes to agriculture, cotton production, cultivation. But when it comes to actual patent records, Eli Whitney holds the patent on the cotton gin. Absolutely.
I think the problem with us was we was like trying to just make things for everybody. And then like they always make that joke saying, we invented this and they created this bill. They created that, you know what I'm saying? Like we created the electricity and then they created the electric bill.
Exactly.
Your traffic light was invented by a Black man. So like everything that we see today was mainly invented by us. Like everything else that they say it wasn't, they probably stole the idea and took their idea.
Absolutely. Well, hey, brother, go ahead and give us some closing remarks, and then I'm gonna wrap up this broadcast.
Well, everybody, I suggest everybody just do your research and stay positive, and don't let nobody take your energy. At the end of the day, we all got to find the truth about our own lineage and know where we all come from, because at the end of the day, you know, we got to just find out who we are and just stay positive. You guys have a blessed one.
Hey, till next time, brother. Thanks for calling in. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm going to pack this cone while I see if we have any more callers that want to call in with a buzzer beater. The folks on YouTube say they've been tuning in for a while. Infamous Fader been here for 2 hours. Shout out to Infamous Fader. Drop some gems on us. You're going to have to call in again in the future, brother. GJ been here for 66 minutes. Infamous Fader said, I learned the Moors are absolutely clueless on their origins. Yeah, that part. He said, the Moor guy sounds like a dumb, street smart nigga. Yeah. Most of them were, yeah. A lot of them, you know, they were locked up, did a bid in prison. They learned about some Moorish, Muslim, Hebrew shit. And yeah. Tuqua says, I don't count the time, but at least 2 hours. Like Mamba says, good night. Well, hey, good night. But before we wrap up, I got to pack me a cone, y'all. I got to pack me a cone. Let's talk about it.
Break it, they ain't let us in. We pass on the settlements. This path I don't recommend. We pass what they expected, man. I go where they never can. I float, I don't never land. When it's dark, you don't know where you go. Need a light bearer to lead you home. I go where they never can. I float, I don't never land. When it's dark, you don't know where you go. Need a light bearer to lead you home. Light 'em up, beat me up. The only goat, the genius one. They switching sides, I seen it coming. The plot twist, a convenient one. Look, nobody finna extort me, even when they record me. I'ma keep it more G. Hand me a drink before I get more deep. She hates sports unless she watch it from the floor seats. I hate that guy didn't make a couple more of me. And all my haters in the chords at the coordinate. They imitate the sound, call it forgery. What we doing is more importantly, look where we made it to. Made love that's unmakeable, bonds that's unbreakable. Broke rules and bent corners, a host of breaking through. Basically went out my way to make a way for you. Basically, we finna take them high places through it. Way improving like a beta, we gon' stay improving. This the light that's gonna illuminate the way we moving. Trust in me, we going God mode, the theory's proven. Light 'em up, beat me up, the only goat, the genius one. They switching sides, I seen it coming. The plot twist, I walk up to the preacher man, just to pick your love land. And get to you, I get to you, and I walk up to the preacher man, just to pick your love land. And get to you, I get to you, and I walk up to the preacher man, just to pick your love land. I get to you. I walk up to the preacher man, just to see your love and get to you. I get to you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's all I have for you this evening. Sugar, thank you for the gifts. Shout out to everybody who's been sending gifts. I know I'm really bad at acknowledging the TikTok gifts, but everybody who sends gifts on TikTok, I really appreciate you all. You know that. Thank you guys for showing up and showing out. Make sure to check out the website, nativeblackancestry.com, and I will see y'all later.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British men. Quite frankly, you was kings Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them. And this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
Oh damn, hold up. I done blocked my camera prematurely. I forgot I ain't even got no pre-rolls, y'all. I ain't even got no pre-rolls. I gotta pack a cone real quick. Shit. I thought that past Michael helped out future Michael by rolling something up before stream, but I did not do any such thing. So again, guys, before I start jamming out to some music, let me pack this cone. Again, if there's anybody that wants to call in, go ahead and do so real quick before I take this break. Where's my stick? Where's my little cone packer stick, y'all? I bought this bougie ass wooden raw brand cone packer stick thing. Okay, I found it, guys. I found my stick. Let me see. We got damn near 100 people watching on YouTube. Damn near the same amount on TikTok. Shout out to Goddess. She said, if they don't look like these photos. Facts. Now, guys, I got to ask you, how long have you been watching so far this evening? Go ahead and post it in the chat. Were you watching from today's earlier broadcast and then transition over to this one? Have you been watching for 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours? Let me know. Also, let me know what is the most educational part of tonight's broadcast, in your opinion. If you learned something new, post a comment in the chat. Let me know what it was. And what's the most entertaining portion or the most nonsensical portion? Was it oh boy, oh my God, we had so many fucking idiots call in tonight. Jesus, we had the Jersey boy whose parents told him New Jersey was New Jerusalem because they were 5%ers. We had some motherfucker from Guinea or something who didn't know nothing about his tribe, didn't know nothing about his culture, but he's trying to interrogate me about me and my people. I mean, we've had some very, very interesting interactions tonight. Shout out to Kat. Kat was refreshing to talk to. She was oh so innocent. Bless her heart. Kat had some genuine questions. They had her a little lost in the sauce over there in Canada, but we dropped some gems on her, y'all. We dropped some gems like we always do. Man. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to give you guys a couple more minutes to call in for the last time. And I'm actually going to burn this one down off stream. I got a documentary film I want to finish watching about, you know, some boring American Indian colonization stuff. You know how it is. Even when I take a smoke break, I got to be researching. But yeah, let's go ahead and listen to this tune. Take a minute or two. Give everybody a final opportunity